is City News.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 1011 everywhere.
It is Tuesday, January 31st. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, it is minus 19 and feels like minus 23. In Smiths Falls, it is minus 14. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. The latest on the economy output is out. Here is City News Senior Business Editor Mike Epple.
The economy was weathering the rapidly rising interest rates over the course of 2022. Stats Canada reporting this morning the overall economic output for Canada was up by 0.1% in November. That was in line with expectations. Now, overall, the annualized pace of output was slowing in the fourth quarter, but still positive. Big question, does it slow more as we're into the new year? And we've seen now 8 interest rate hikes in the policy tightening cycle.
The Canadian dollar is holding steady at 74.5 cents American following that GDP release. And one man is dead from stab wounds at an apartment on Saratoga Place. Police were called to the incident at about 1:30 this morning to the 2700 block of that street, which is south of Hunt Club at Bank. A man and a woman were injured. The man was pronounced dead in hospital, and there's no word on the condition of the woman. With the weather forecast for Ottawa and the Valley, here is City News weather specialist Denise Andriachi.
Lots of sunshine today, but is it ever a cold day? And we better get used to it because some of the coldest temperatures of the season moving in, especially for Friday, Saturday. It won't be too long lasting. The long range models are indicating that we'll head back to seasonal for next week. But this week, we're definitely seeing some swings with the temperatures. The guaranteed high today, -9, but we do hang on to a pretty bitter wind chill most of the day. And we're down to near -20 overnight with just a few clouds. The guaranteed high for today, -9.
City News time is 10:02. It was started as a move to help Canadians struggling with the cost of living crisis. So, did it work? City News reporter Sonia Aslam reports the Laprade price freeze ends today on all no-name brand products.
Some of the items that didn't really budge in price included things like coffee pods, pasta, and toilet paper. But as this price freeze, which was announced in the fall, ends, what's going to happen to your grocery bill? Well, prices will readjust and it may go up a bit. Sylvain Charlebois with the Agri-Food Analytics Lab at Dalhousie University feels this was a marketing ploy with the national grocer trying to show some sympathy at a time when people were and still are struggling to put food on the table.
When you have 25,000 SKUs and only 1,500 of them are no-name branded products, you still have options to raise prices somewhere else in the store. I suspect that they were able to hedge or they were able to rebalance things.
Now, Loblaw claims it's not done, adding it will continue to hold prices flat wherever possible. Meantime, dairy prices are set to go up tomorrow. The Canadian Dairy Commission says the hike was approved to help farmers deal with the increase in cost of operating and inflation. Sonia Aslam, City News.
I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for spending time with us today, Tuesday, January the 31st. We appreciate you spending time on City News. When we come back a little bit later after our break, we're going to be speaking with a representative from Ottawa Fire. His name is Dennis Charbonneau. We're going to be talking about some work that they did to help out the Orleans Food Bank, which was much appreciated. We're also going to spend some time today with Sharon Carstairs and Paula Doring. We're going to be talking about what it means for palliative care and some of the changes that Briere has underway. Some very important discussions today with them. We wanted to get caught up today with Michael Kempa, Associate Professor of Criminology at the University of Ottawa. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning.
We're all holding our breath a little bit for the Ottawa Police Services Board meeting in terms of the budget. We know that this has been, a very, very big topic, bone of contention for many people in terms of how those monies are spent. What are you expecting, Michael?
I'm expecting we're going to see a continuation of the trend that since 2020, no police service in Canada has reduced its budget. So in 2020, you may remember we had a lot of protests across North America that came on the heels of the murder of Floyd George. And we had a slowdown in spending on policing. Most budgets across Canada have been coming in at about 2.5 to 3% increases ever since. That's what we're expecting for Ottawa tomorrow. We've had a vote where the overall budget estimations are going to be with a tax increase assumption of 2.5%. And we can be pretty sure that's where the police will come in.
And it's so interesting because there's been a lot of discussion as well, to be honest with you, since the death of George Floyd, in terms of how monies are spent as well in this community in terms of social services and you know, the investment into maybe doing things a bit different. Is there an appetite, do you think, for that at the board level?
Well, there had better be, I would say, and that is for the reason that the kind of debate where people get very excited, and I understand it, you know, people yell and scream, we either defend police funding at some small percentage increase or we're absolutely against it. It's a little bit of a red herring because every year, whatever we budget, most police services actually come in over budget. And in Ottawa, we've done the same thing. We've been about 1% over budget, and the city's on the hook. They don't have a choice. They have to spend it when the police go over budget. So what I'm saying is, all right, if we're going to see a 2.5% increase, I want to see the plan for how the police are planning to reorient themselves, really get creative and rebuild themselves as a key pillar in community safety and well-being. We all know the province has mandated that every municipality has to come up with a detailed community safety and well-being plan, where they have to have a plan for housing security, food security, dealing with mental health crises in the community. That's nice. Obviously, the police have to be a key pillar in community safety and well-being. We would be very happy to spend the money if we've got an innovative plan to drag policing into those community safety and well-being plans. Now, the mayor and the city councillors who are on the board have a very big responsibility there to make sure that spending on policing is aligned with the municipality's plans for community safety and well-being.
Do you think they have been in the past, Michael?
It's a little bit new for municipalities to start thinking in this way. Now, we do have a pretty well-developed, principled plan for community safety and well-being in Ottawa. Over the last couple of years, we've got this sort of very loose framework. Now it's time for the details. So this is not going to be a binary, like overnight we're going to say we're going to radically rethink how the police are organized, and they're going to do many, many different things on the ground. But it's iterative. It goes step by step. So this year, what are we planning on doing? A couple of years ago, we had a nice plan to fund out of the police budget where an investigation of where we can divert calls away from policing. So there's studies out there that estimate that you could save millions of dollars in policing by sending the calls that don't need to come to the police to other social services. If we're having a 2.5% increase, I'd like to see some money going in to figuring out exactly where we can divert those calls. This is not an anti-police statement. Many police would say, yes, please take those calls away from us for a lot of mental health calls and so forth, because it's not something we're very good or interested in dealing with. So let's see it. Give us the details. Where's the money going? And if it's smart investment, well, we'd be happy to make it.
Is it difficult for the police board here in Ottawa to budget because of the fact we're the capital and things happen because we're the capital? Do we get reimbursed from the federal government for things that happen in this city to the tune that we should be, or is that not sort of meshing?
Well, everybody saw in the context of the Freedom Convoy movement, I mean, the gigantic protest that concentrated itself in Ottawa because it is the capital. I mean, in the words of former Mayor Jim Watson, it was getting in front of Parliament was seen as the prized symbolic pig for protesters, the image that they wanted. We have a lot more of this than other cities. And it does cost us sometimes some very unanticipated monies. Now, that shouldn't be an excuse to let the budget now balloon out of all proportion. but we need to be reimbursed for extra costs that we pick up, of course, from the province and the federal government. We are the capital. We're the focus of a lot of attention that other cities are not, and that can't be part of the regular municipal budget.
Mm-hmm. And we're hearing, always when that sunshine list comes out, which I don't understand why it's still at $100,000, to be honest, because it's been at $100,000 for probably 20 or 25 years, as long as I've been following it. But when we look at that sunshine list, we see a lot of police officers, making $150,000, $160,000, a lot of it due to overtime. So is that an issue of managing resources, or is that an issue of something happened and we need to make sure we have the right resources staffed?
Well, that's resource management. So I know that it's understandable that many people say, do not allow the police to hire new members, freeze the budget, make them do better work with what resources they already have, and put the resources into other areas of community safety and well-being. Okay, well, fine. If you don't hire the right number of police officers, the smaller number will do the work by picking up a huge amount of overtime, for which we are on the hook for, financially speaking, at the end of the year, whether we like it or not. So I'm saying, all right, if they want to hire, as they are probably this year, about 95 to 100 officers, 50 or 60 for the next 2 years, that sounds promising. We've had a lot of retirement, a lot of people who have left policing in the stresses of COVID and moved on to other careers and so forth. But then I want to see the plan for those officers. Where are you planning to assign them within the police organization? If they're going into innovative areas, community safety and well-being, major crime investigation, because other social services can't do that, in terms of areas for dealing with domestic violence and hate crime and so forth. These are things that we need in policing. So again, I'm not opposed to hiring, but I want to see the plan for the hires.
Mm-hmm. And we know as well, when I think about all of the different strategies to bring people up through the ranks, we saw a massive hole when the so-called Freedom Convoy was here. When we were to have 3 deputies. We know that one of them was off on leave, I believe a paid leave, because of some accusations. Then we were left with 2 deputies. Then one of them came up to be interim chief, left with 1 deputy, and there was nobody sort of filling the ranks. It just seemed like there wasn't a progression of people, or a group ready to move up to the next level. That's what I've heard from inside sources as well.
Yeah, I would say that would have been a little bit of an oops on the part of the Police Services Board when they brought in the new chief, Eric Stubbs. It probably would have been a good idea to say to Mr. Stubbs, who would you like to bring with you in terms of some key senior people to come in with you as a team, as part of your change management team, trusted sort of colonels that you can bring along with you to place in key kind of fulcrum positions within the organization to help you affect that change mandate. That probably would have been a good idea. That's something that's been done with very good effect in places like Peel and Edmonton, where change chiefs brought a small team of senior people with them. Now, we didn't do that this time around. It's probably not great, not the end of the world, because we can recruit some other senior people to come in, and we can look into the organization and sort of identify some rising stars for promotion. But we need to do so kind of quickly.
Yeah, quickly, absolutely, because at one point, as you know, we had 3 chiefs, and it was a bit of a mess. Michael, let me ask you this last question. How should we, if this is something we're passionate about, do you think with all the changes that are happening at the police board level, do you think we'll actually be listened to? If we reached out and said, this is what we think as residents, do you think that there's an appetite to listen to the residents of Ottawa?
Well, again, I think that there had better be. I mean, we just had all of the problems of Ottawa police laid bare through an excruciating several weeks of testimony at the Public Order Emergencies Commission. It's a bit late to pretend that there's no problem. I think that most senior management within the police are pretty aware of many of the problems. And if they don't address them, they're sort of at a critical moment right now. We always say this critical moment, but public support for the police is there to be won if they acknowledge the problems and address them with expedience. Now is really the time. Now remember, the report of the POEC Commission will be coming out, the Public Order Emergencies Commission will be coming out 20th of February. They're going to be saying some quite confronting things about what needs to happen, not only in Ottawa policing, but in municipal policing across Ontario and Canada. I would say embrace that and run with it, and show some, and you'll probably reap some goodwill from the city of Ottawa.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure we'll be talking around that time, Michael. We'll lean on you for your advice then as well. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you kindly. I'll be here.
Michael Kempa, Associate Professor of Criminology at the University of Ottawa. Appreciate his time today. We'll be watching very closely, of course, at that Ottawa Police Services Board meeting budget. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to interview Councillor Riley Brockington. I filled in for the one and only Derek Fage on daytime, and Riley was really wanting to send the message to all residents. There's lots of different opportunities for residents to get involved in terms of this budget. If you go on the website, you'll see all these opportunities for you to not only talk about specific committees, but the budget as a whole. So they're definitely, from what all I can see from everybody I talk to, they're wanting to hear from you, so reach out to them for sure. When we come back, we're going to speak with a representative from Ottawa Fire about their commitment to the Orleans Food Bank. Stay with us on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, my name is Sean Duhame. And this is the Sean Duhame Trio. I hope you enjoyed.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Sometimes, for a wish to come true, it takes a kingdom, because together is stronger. Tied tight, united we stand, in honor of one child's wish, to fuel the fire that will grant many more. Join the kingdom.
Leonard Thompson, 13 years old, diabetes mellitus, 65 pounds.
Starve the child to let them live? The treatment's as cruel as the disease. It's a death sentence.
Dr. Banting, this could be it. He's the first to receive this trial. But will it save him?
It's not pure enough.
So we try again. And again. And again.
Before the discovery of insulin, diabetes was a death sentence. Banting, Best, Collip, and MacLeod's breakthrough has saved millions of lives. Leonard Thompson's was the first.
$20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, prendiamo un café. Let's grab a coffee and a sweet treat, a tiramisu. Salut!
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, I think think everybody's up for a little good news. We have some good news today from Dennis Charbonneau from Ottawa Fire Services. Hi, Dennis. How are you?
Great. Yourself, Sam. Thank you for having us on.
Well, I understand that there's some very good news coming out of Orleans. Share what happened.
So yesterday we presented our check off to the Orleans Cumberland Resource Center for our annual food drive we have in December with the volunteer firefighters. This year we were happy to donate close to $15,000 in money and over close to $18,000 in food items for the Orleans Cumberland Resource Center.
Well, I can hear in your voice, Dennis, how important that was. That's a lot of money and a lot of obviously food to help people in the community. Walk me through how it all happened.
So how it happens is every year we have it on a Saturday in December. We have our local volunteer firefighters from the Orleans, Cumberland, and Navan and Vars standing at the grocery stores and asking for donations, whether it be money or collecting food that the food bank is in need of.
And there's never been a time, I think, Dennis, when we haven't realized in this community for sure how our neighbors are struggling.
No, and especially this year with the inflation and so on, everything happening around us, people really needed it to help out. I was talking to the director yesterday, and it was over 1,200 families just in our community alone that needed it, and 50% of that was children. So it put a real smile on all the firefighters' faces and to help out the community. And tell us, are you a volunteer firefighter? That's right, 20 years with the Ottawa Fire Service.
Wow, how did that all come to be?
You know what? My father was a firefighter, and I like giving back to the community, and just joined the volunteer service and said, I'll do a few years, and 20 years later, I'm still here.
20 years later. I love that. And tell me, Dennis, what does it mean for your life on an everyday being a volunteer firefighter?
You know what? It's the support we have from our home life that really helps. Because, as a volunteer firefighter, we're on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We get a page at 2 a.m. We're off, and our wives and husbands and so on help out at the house with the kids. And, we really make sure we can give back to the community and they can help us in our home life.
What's it like for you to, to be called, well, like you say, 2 o'clock in the morning and you get in your vehicle and you're on your way and you don't know what you're you don't know what you're arriving at, Dennis. I mean, it could be very, very tragic circumstances. What's that like?
That's right. You know what? With our dispatch system, we're updated on what we're going into and what we have. Great updates. We have a great support system with the Ottawa Fire Service, whether it be it could be a good call, it could be a bad call, and we have great support system with the Ottawa Fire for peer support and so on for mental health that really helps us out.
And so you're a volunteer firefighter, all of you, and then you still get together and do this for the community and raise all this funds. It seems like you're, it's that whole analogy about give a busy person something to do because they'll actually get it done.
That's right. And, we have, like I said, we're 125 volunteers in the East End here that service the Orleans, Cumberland, Navan, and Vars area. And every year I put out the call to have them come out at the food drive. And you know what? They answer the call. They come out with their families and husbands and wives and kids and spend the day and collecting food.
Oh, that's wonderful. And tell me about your team. Who do you serve with?
Who I serve with? We're a composite station here in Orleans. Guys that I've coached football with for 15, 20 years, so we became lifelong friends, and we still give back in the community with the fire service. And, a tremendous amount of brotherhood and sisterhood in the fire service. We got lifelong friends here.
Mm-hmm. It really is amazing to see that you've given back, Dennis. I really appreciate your time today, and please extend our thanks to your whole team, and thanks for not only volunteering, like I said, 2 o'clock in the morning, but you're doing all this wonderful work with the food bank. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Sam. Have a great day.
Appreciate your time. Dennis Charbonneau joining us from Ottawa Fire Services, and those are the stories that really. We need those good news stories on chilly days like this in January. I can't believe it's January 31st today. This month has definitely flown by. We're getting ready for, obviously, a very important month coming up in Black History Month. We're going to be sharing the stories of many people in our community during the upcoming months. We're getting ready for that. But for today's show, we're working hard as well to bring you lots of different stories. We're going to be talking about an outdoor rink contest. This happened last year. Really fun contest. We're going to tell you all about about it. It may be something that you want to get involved with. We're also going to speak with Peter Tilley today. He's the CEO, of course, of the Ottawa Mission. We're going to be talking about the decriminalization of drugs. We know British Columbia have been tackling this issue. We're going to be talking with Peter about what that means, maybe for the province of Ontario. It certainly is challenging. For those that listen to City News regularly, you know that I spent close to a decade working at the Ottawa Mission. I worked on the fundraising side of things, but certainly saw firsthand what it was like to see people really be addicted and have those mental health issues as well. So I'm anxious to hear what Peter has to say today on that topic. We're also going to talk to someone a little bit later that's going to talk to us about how to talk to kids about tough subjects. And boy, there's lots of tough subjects to talk about. We wanted to also get caught up with a woman by the name of Nan Al. She's a financial security advisor. But why we want to talk to her is she had her Lexus stolen from her driveway. And we talked to her a couple of days after that happened. That was a couple of months ago. And boy, does she have a tale to tell about how challenging it has been. She got her vehicle back finally after having to rent a vehicle for a very long time. Her vehicle finally got back to her. Guess what? Problems with her vehicle. So she's very, very upset about this, and so she should be. It's been very disruptive, and you can imagine, if your vehicle was stolen out of your driveway, maybe it has been. I mean, there's been so many people every single day. I seem to see somewhere on social media that someone had their vehicle stolen. So Nan's going to give us a taste of what that's been like for her. We're also going to spend time today with Fareed Khan, the founder of Canadians United Against Hate. There's been some talk about the appointment of somebody in terms of Muslim issues. And we want to talk to Fareed today because there's been an appointment of a person and Quebec is fighting against this appointment. And we want to find out why. That's going to be a very interesting discussion. We're also going to speak with James Powell, who's the director of the Historical Society of Ottawa. We're going to talk about the 1916 Centre Block fire. Of course, when we look back, we learn. We look forward to that. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Salut tout le monde, je m'appelle Jessie Lindsay. Venez écouter mon spectacle Encore Ottawa 3 sur Rogers TV cette semaine. Hi everybody, come listen to my Encore Ottawa 3 show on Rogers TV this week. I hope you enjoy it.
I'm Wendell Clark with a word about winning. We all know it takes a team effort in any sport and with any challenge. You can be a part of the winning team that shuts out impaired driving. Whether you're out on the town or just hanging out with friends, drink responsibly. Always have a plan for a safe ride home for yourself, your family, and your friends. You'll be helping to shut out impaired driving.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
Hey folks, it's me, Giovanni Patini, the host of the RTV quiz show, the hottest show on television. It's the hilarious quiz show where you, the viewers, play for valuable non-existent prizes. It's got great trivia, fun facts, and a lot of laughs, all blended together in a perfect cocktail of edutainment. So join us Wednesdays at 7:30 right here on Rogers TV. Nice.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
News, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It
It is Tuesday, January 31st. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, minus 14 feels like minus 17. In Smiths Falls, it is minus 12 and feels like minus 16. And here's what's making news this hour. The economy grew by 0.1% in November, which is exactly what analysts predicted as higher interest rates began to slow spending. And StatsCan's preliminary estimate for December indicates the economy stayed flat, suggesting annualized growth of 1.6% in the fourth quarter, and that's down from 2.9% in the third quarter. And many economists are anticipating a mild recession this year. A man has died after a stabbing at an apartment on Saratoga Place. Police were called to the 2700 block of that street in the area of south of Hunt Club at Bank around 1:30 this morning. 2 adults, a man and a woman, were injured. The man was pronounced dead in hospital. The woman was in serious condition, according to paramedics, but stable when she was taken to the trauma center. Police say that is all the information they are releasing right now. A young black woman sold into slavery, whose actions led to the gradual abolition of slavery in Upper Canada, is being honored by Canada Post. In March of 1793, Chloe Cooley was kidnapped and questioned by a man who forced her on a boat across the Niagara River to the U.S. and sold her as a slave. Witnesses who heard her scream for help told her story to Lieutenant Governor John Graves Simcoe. He used testimony about Cooley's attack to introduce new legislation, and in July 1793, the Act to Limit Slavery in Upper Canada was passed. City News time is 10:31. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Thank you so much for spending time with us today on City News. We're talking about one of my favorite places in this city, and that is Briere. And we're joined today by Sharon Carstairs, former senator. How are you, Sharon? Hi, Sharon. How are you?
I'm fine, Sam. How are you?
What a wonderful opportunity to spend time with you today and talk about one of our favorite places, Briere.
Well, thank you, and thank you for your support in the past.
Oh, absolutely. You've been such an advocate for palliative care and everything you've done for this country, Sharon. It's greatly appreciated.
Well, you know, it's been the cause of my life for 30 years, and it's now particularly important that I make a contribution to Ottawa, where John and I now live.
It's certainly appreciated. And Paula Doring is joining you today, Senior Vice President, Clinical Programs, Chief Nursing Executive, and Allied Health. Thank you so much, Paula, for joining us.
Good morning, Sam. And hello, Sharon. Good to hear your voice.
Absolutely. And Paula, when you think about Sharon's commitment to palliative care and what it's meant for this country, in particular, Briere, what are your thoughts?
Sharon's contribution has been absolutely remarkable, and I think that, you know, evidence has proven Sharon's theory that patients who receive a palliative approach to care live longer and have a better quality of life. And I know Sharon's heart and soul went into that nationally, and I think now we're having the opportunity to see some of that benefit here at Briere.
We certainly have. And I think, Sharon, when people think about palliative care, they just think about end of life. Educate us a little bit there.
I'm sorry, Sam, I didn't hear you.
Oh, no, that's okay. I said, you know, people think about palliative care, they think about just end of life. But it's so much more than that.
Yes, exactly. You know, it's really about living well until the very end. And you know, what we have discovered over the years is that people who have early access to palliative care actually live longer than those who don't have palliative care. So rather than be frightened about the concept of palliative care, people should be very positive about being in palliative care, because you'll get the very best care you possibly could get.
Oh, beautifully said, Sharon. And the new partnership, Paula, talk to us about that.
Well, so we're really pleased to have the opportunity to partner with the Sharon Carstairs Outcare Foundation Fellowship. So what the opportunity will be is that our nurses at Bruyere will have a chance to apply for a fellowship, which means they get to be pulled out of their clinical position at the bedside and actually focus on a palliative care fellowship where they will develop objectives for an area of their choice where they would like to learn more or bring that education back to the bedside. They will have the opportunity to complete a Learning Essentials in Palliative Care course during that time. They will have a complementary clinical experience. So it may be one of our nurses in primary care, our family health teams. It may be a nurse at the bedside. It may be a nurse that's out in our community, and they will have the chance to step outside of their comfort zone. So if it's a nurse at the bedside that's providing care, they might like to actually do a clinical experience with our regional palliative care team and go into the home and see those patients. They wouldn't have that opportunity otherwise. So they will be able to address a gap that they experience and hopefully gain the knowledge and understanding and that expertise in palliative care to bring it back to the bedside and apply that care.
Well, that's wonderful to hear, Paula. And as I think, Sharon, about our aging population, this is even more important than ever.
Well, of course. Canada now has more people over the age of 65 than they have between the ages of birth and 15. And yet we don't have enough geriatricians to look after them. We certainly don't have enough long-term care beds, and we certainly deny them the care they should have at end of life.
And, when I think about the work, Paula, and all the nurses that you work with, and, this is such incredible work to be done. Are they excited, Paula, about this opportunity to really serve in such a different way, but such an important way?
They absolutely are. And, Sam, I know we've focused on our aging population, but Bruyere has patients from, in their teens to over 100 that we provide that care. And many of our patients have life-limiting illnesses. And many of them are not at imminent end of life. Some of them will be with us for months, or some of them may be with us for years if there are patients on our long-term ventilation. Mm-hmm. So every area of expertise that we have at Bruyere, every specialized program will have the opportunity to provide a palliative approach to care. So everybody's excited because it's not just our palliative care unit that is providing a palliative approach. It's all of our clinical programs. And whether you're working in the family health team, as we mentioned, and caring for patients with congestive heart failure or chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases, those can be life-limiting illnesses. And being able to provide that approach, I think, excites all of our staff because it's an area that I would say that didn't have enough specialized training, certainly when I went to school. And because I think we know that palliative care will provide, that approach will provide a better quality of life, every staff member wants the opportunity to be able to allow that for their patients and their families.
Beautifully said. And Sharon, I think back to the good times that you and I have had at the Outcare Foundation's Black Tie Bingo. That's always a lot of fun.
Well, the advantage of Black Tie Bingo, of course, is that it's given the Outcare Foundation, that's transitioning, by the way, into a different type of gift giving. It gave them the opportunity to acquire the funds, which has made their contribution so important to this. They have decided that they will go into a new vision, which will allow them to give even more money to the community for palliative care. And we're hopeful that Bruyere is going to take over the Black Tie Bingo because it's such a good event for our community. But the important thing is that the money has gone to palliative care now for a great number of years, and I hope it will continue to act as an event that does that.
It certainly is a lot of fun, Paul. I've had the opportunity to attend that a couple of times and host it a couple of times. It's certainly been, an event that's so important here in this city. And you think about people coming out and supporting palliative care. It's one of those things, Paula, that maybe not come top of mind for people when they're giving in this community, but essentially, and you've illustrated it beautifully today, we're all going to need that at some point, right? So important.
Well, I have to say, Sam, that, I've now had my 80th birthday, and my husband's going to have his 90th this year. So we're very conscious of the need of palliative care in our community.
Absolutely,
But we have to remember that palliative care covers all ranges of life. I mean, we have a wonderful children's hospice here in Ottawa because children die. And they need this kind of care. People in their 30s and 40s die, unfortunately, all too often from cancer. But they need palliative care. It's not age-specific, although, to be fair, the vast majority of us require it are in my and my husband's ages.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautifully said, Sharon. It really is for everyone in the community. And Paula, what's it like to be working with a legend like Sharon Carstairs?
Absolutely outstanding. When I think of the important benefits that will follow this fellowship and the enhanced experience that we're going to have for our patients and our loved ones, Sharon, I was just sitting here thinking that your gift is a gift that will continue to give, right? And it will be remarkable for the patients in our region because we certainly provide palliative care for all of the Champlain region. And many patients come to our door here at St. Vincent's. And having the knowledge and expertise with the bedside nurses will allow all of our patients to have that enhanced experience. And I can't thank Sharon enough for approaching us here at Bruyere because, as I said, it is the gift that we'll continue to give.
Beautifully said. And Sharon, last question to you. What are some myths about palliative care that you would like to bust today? What are some myths that that people think about that type of care that you can change our mind on today?
I think that we as a society tend to be death-denying, but it's going to happen to all of us, Sam. And we now have to make a decision as to how we want our loved ones to pass. And palliative care is the best thing we have to offer to provide them with the best possible care at the end of their lives, no matter what the age they might be at the end of their lives. They have to be treated with dignity. They have to be treated with good quality care, and that's what palliative care offers to them, but at the present time is only available to about 30% of Canadians who die.
And I'll tell you, Sharon, my father had the most incredible palliative care at his end of life, and we're so grateful. And it was immediate that the people that cared for him almost felt like family to us at the end, because they're there for just such an incredibly difficult time for a family, but they just do it with such grace and such patience, and for that my family definitely is very grateful for how my father got to spend his last time. So thank you so much for all of your work, Sharon. I'm just in such admiration of your work and of what you've done for this country, and I really appreciate you joining us today.
Well, thanks, Sam, but it's thanks to all the caregivers at places like Bruyere. It's thanks to the Oak Care Foundation for all they have done for so many years. I'm just a tiny cog in this.
Well, we appreciate all the effort. And of course, Paula Doring, can't say enough about you, Paula. We respect you so much as well. Senior Vice President, Clinical Programs, Chief Nursing Executive, Allied Health, of course, at the amazing Bruyere. We love it so much. Thank you both, two dynamic women in our community, joining us today on City News. Such an important organization, Bruyere. And if you don't know, about Bruyere, reach out, look on their website. You will be amazed at how many different campuses they have, the services that they offer. Breer's the kind of place you only really understand how special it is if you've walked through the doors or a loved one has. So definitely reach out to them. When we come back, we're going to learn about some outdoor rink contests happening. We're going to learn all about it. Stay with us on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, my name is Sean Duhame. And this is the Sean Duhame Trio. I hope you enjoyed.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Blood in the urine is the most common symptom of bladder cancer. Don't ignore this warning sign, not even once.
On Tuesday's Daytime Ottawa, February marks the return of the Canadian Cancer Society's Dry February initiative. We'll tell you why it is so important, of course, how you can participate. We'll also introduce you to a local winner of Diabetes Canada's End Diabetes Research Competition. And have you heard of the Missing Link Project? Well, if you haven't, tune in to Daytime Ottawa on Tuesday.
I'm Julian Armour from Music and Beyond. Join us for a new show this spring on Rogers called Music and Beyond Presents.
$20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, prendiamo un café. Let's grab a coffee and a sweet treat, a tiramisu. Salut!
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
And thank you for joining us here on Rogers TV and City News. Thanks for tuning in and viewing as well. We appreciate it. We wanted to spend some time today with Kristen Leach, Coordinator, Membership and Program Development at Cara Hockey. Hi, Kristen. How are you?
Good. How are you, Sam? Thanks for having me back on again this year to talk about our outdoor rink contest.
Well, I was going to say, it's like we have another date this year. It's fantastic to talk about it. For those that aren't familiar with Cara Hockey, walk us through what your organization's all about.
Yeah, so we are we're a hockey organization that provides programs and resources for adult rec hockey, along with our sister company, I Play Hockey, who supports the minor hockey side of things. And we have taken this contest on again this season. We did this again last year, allowing, outdoor rinks are a huge impact on us, on our hockey lovers here. So we wanted to give back to the community with a $1,000 grand prize towards 3 ODRs in the community.
An ODR outdoor rink, just because I'm not really hip, I got to learn all this stuff. So for people that are wanting to enter this contest, how would they do that, Kristen?
Yeah, so we have a brand new website this year as well, thenextstride.ca. Show you all of the contest details, how to enter, the submissions of people who have already submitted their for the contest. And we just want to make note, this year we've made a few changes. There's any ODR in our community, municipal rink, community rink, privately owned rink, your own personal outdoor rink in your backyard, as well with volunteers and community members who are dedicating their time to maintain these outdoor rinks can also be nominated as well.
Okay, and we know that the early bird prize, all entries received by today are entered into those, but the submission deadline goes right till February 22nd, so still a bit of time there for people to get involved. And the $1,000 would be used towards what, Kristen?
For the operating cost of the outdoor rinks for the 2023-24 season. And one thing too that we are offering this year, Sam, is that even if your rink isn't open yet for this season, just because the weather so far has been cooperating, but it always doesn't, you can still enter to be entered into the contest to win for the following season.
And I'm loving seeing all the different submissions, which is really fun to see who else is stepping up and applying as well.
Yes, for sure. Like you had mentioned, the contest opened on January 16th, and it will be open until February 22nd. But we were reviewing our entries this morning, and we actually already have well up to over 30 entries. So that's great.
Okay,
from
and
all across Canada,
which is great. And I'm seeing one in Nepean, which I think is fantastic. I love Nepean.
Yes,
that's great to see some local people applying as well for those funds. Where do these funds come from, Kristen?
So we have lots of funding that we put aside for to help within the community. This is a prime example of a contest that we can do, and that's part of our plan here at Cara Hockey and iPlay is to give back to the community to make sure that we can make those outdoor rinks for the season the best they can be for the local ODRs.
And I noticed one in Carp. Love Carp. Love hanging out there.
Yes, lots in Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Nova Scotia. They're coming in from all across, so that's great to see. And any way that we can give back to the community is our key point.
Well, that's fantastic. And how many members would there be for Cara?
Oh gosh, we have leagues and teams all across Canada. We are actually hosting our World Cup tournament in Richmond, BC this March, where we have teams coming and from all across. We have Finland, we have Sweden, from everywhere. So we're looking forward to that event as well.
That's fantastic. And if somebody is wanting to get involved, maybe they're just learning today, how would they do that?
Just go onto our website, carahockey.ca, or just Google it. It will come up on the first search, and all of the information is there. Even to become, to bring your team or your league on, all the information is there, as well as our outdoor rink, along with the World Cup hockey tournament in BC. Everything is there as well.
Oh, that's fantastic, Kristen. I really appreciate you sharing this today, and remind us again where we can go to get all the details and to register our outdoor rink in our community.
For sure. So the website is thenextstride.ca. And as soon as you go there, you will see about 5 headers on top of the page, the contest details, enter contest, submissions, and any questions or any inquiries for the media are there as well, as long as we have a little, I'll call it a button where you can click to download all of the information as well for you to enter.
Well, I'll tell you, the website is very easily laid out, so thank you so much for that, Kristen. Always a pleasure. Let's have a date for next year too.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. I like it.
Awesome. Kristen Leitz joining us, Coordinator, Membership and Program Development for Cara Hockey. We love it so much. Our very own good friend of mine, Lori Shirelli, working there as well. Appreciate everything that they do for hockey here in Canada. It's certainly a very busy show for you today. When we come back after 11 o'clock, we've talked a lot about drugs and addiction and mental health on this show. And today we're going to talk about the decriminalization of drugs. Our colleague here, David Smith, of course, talked about that on the Talkback Hour a little bit earlier today because of some decisions that are happening in British Columbia. So Peter Tilley from the Ottawa Mission is going to talk to us a little bit about that, and it's going to be an interesting conversation. We look forward to that. We're also going to have a conversation today with a woman who had her Lexus stolen. Have you had a vehicle stolen out of your laneway? Because a lot of people have. It is amazing to me. I belong to a number of different Facebook groups, and it seems like every day or every second day, someone's saying, I woke up, got in the shower, looked outside, my car was gone. That's Nan Al's story, and she's going to talk to us about not only when her vehicle got stolen, because she actually joined us a couple of days after that happened. She's going to talk about what's happened since. She just keeps hitting barrier after barrier with Lexus. She's going to talk to us about that today. We're also going to spend some time with Fareed Khan, founder of Canadians United Against Hate. James Powell's going to join us as well to learn about the Centre Block fire that happened in 1916. Lots of great history in this city. And of course, we're getting ready for lunch. I know it's a little early, but we're getting ready here on City News because we're inviting Allison Fair and Cam Holstrom to the table today. We're going to be talking about lots of very big stories today, like we talked about the drug situation and how that's playing out in British Columbia. We're also going to talk about that police services budget. How should it be spent? Lots of opportunity now for residents of Ottawa to step up and give their thoughts on not only the police services budget, but all of the budgets, all of those committee budgets, including transit, of course, including the overall budget. We're going to be talking as well and asking them, are police doing enough regarding vehicle thefts in this region? We know that Ottawa Police thwarted a couple of recent attempts at car thefts. We're going to be speaking about that very important topic. We're also going to talk about Mike Schreiner. What's happening with Mike Schreiner? He is, of course, the leader of the Green Party here for the province of Ontario. There's lots of Liberals thinking he might make a great Liberal leader. So we might see a cross against the floor there, talking about that leadership race. We know Yasser Natfi has also shared that he may be interested in that position. So it's going to be an interesting conversation. And did you know today, January 31st, is National Backwards Day? So you could, have dessert for breakfast. Would that be something you would do, Noah?
National Backwards Day?
National Backwards Day.
Wow. So, is it like a reverse day, or is it like I just do everything opposite?
Yeah. So supposedly it's, you have dessert for breakfast and you maybe wear your shirt the wrong way. I wouldn't suggest driving the wrong way.
I was going to say, can I drive backwards?
No.
Okay.
Don't be driving backwards.
Well, it might work. Does that mean I can have a beer pretty early, or what's the cutoff?
Probably not here in the studio,
no,
but yes.
Of course not.
But yes, maybe that's, of course not. Yeah, maybe early. We're going to be asking Allison Fair and Cam Holstrom how they're going to be celebrating National Backwards Day. We're heading forwards, though. Don't you worry, here on City News.
My mental health is as important as my physical health.
Consider taking your first steps to improve your overall mental well-being. Whether for you or your loved one, the Center for Interpersonal Relationships mental health professionals offer 26 treatment services and 17 assessment services. You don't have to live with anxiety, depression, trauma, and relationship concerns any longer. They're here to help you build greater self-resilience, confidence, and healthier relationships. Visit CFIR.ca today.
What's on at the National Gallery of Canada? Experience the amazing artwork of the 2022 Sobey Art Award finalists. 5 artists representing every region in Canada and the future of contemporary art. See work by other award-winning artists, both established and emerging in other rooms. Thursday nights are always free, and there's family art bingo on the weekends. Browse the boutique for unique gift ideas and find out about the perks of membership.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Salut tout le monde, je m'appelle Jessie Lindsay. Venez écouter mon spectacle Encore Ottawa 3 sur Rogers TV cette semaine. Hi everybody, come listen to my Encore Ottawa 3 show on Rogers TV this week. I hope you enjoy it.
For 25 years, you've been helping to make our roads safer by doing the right thing. You've been the designated driver, you've stayed over, called home, You've called a cab or a friend and planned ahead. Let's keep doing the right thing. Support sober driving by getting yourself and your friends home safely.
Do the right thing.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
Do you have something to share? Let everyone know about your next meeting, your need for volunteers, or your fundraising event on the Rogers TV Community Billboard. Send us your words and we'll bring them to life on Rogers TV and RogersTV.com. When it's time to spread the word, go to RogersTV.com to add your announcement to the Community Billboard.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
It's the best thing to do.
Service should be reduced. Unfortunately, it would make it for the passengers that they'd have to walk a little bit, possibly for a bus, which is an inconvenience to the public. I get that, but it's a lot better than being stuck.
During this snowy month, we've seen numerous articulate buses stuck in the snow. He also says that reduced service is due to an operator shortage.
All of my members are out there working, and they're putting in a lot of hours just to make the system work. And yes, there are trip cancellations because there is a shortage of operators.
Chris Curry's City News.
With the weather forecast for Ottawa at the Valley, here is City News weather specialist Denise Andriachi.
Sunny and cold today, a guaranteed high of -9, but what a cold start it has been across Ottawa and Smiths Falls. We hang on to a pretty bitter wind chill all day too, so lots of layers needed. Overnight lows near -20, just a few clouds. Chance of flurries Wednesday and Thursday. We're really watching Thursday night as some of the coldest air of the season moves in. We're down to -23. Highs for Friday only around -20 with lots of sunshine, but Friday night lows near -30. That's not even factoring in the wind chill, so dangerous cold is headed our way. The guaranteed high today -9.
City News time is 11:02. The chair of a group of experts who have released new standards for long-term care homes say the recommendations will only be useful if governments mandate and enforce them. The panel is recommending 4 hours of direct care to residents per day and increased pay for workers in the homes. They say having measures such as these in place could have prevented that swept long-term care residences at the start of the pandemic. Meanwhile, the Montfort Hospital is one of the top research hospitals in the country. Since 2015, the Montfort has been ranked one of the top Canadian research hospitals. This year, it is ranked number 40. In a statement, the hospital says that this achievement is a testament to the initiative drive of its clinicians and researchers. Now, it goes on to credit the value and importance that the hospital places on giving patients and members of the Ottawa-Gatineau community the opportunity to shape the future of healthcare by taking part in research. The list of research hospitals is compiled by Research InfoSource, a Canadian research and development information company. Ontario Green Party leader Mike Schreiner isn't ruling out to bid for the leadership of the provincial Liberals. The Liberals have been without a permanent leader since Stephen Del Duca stepped down last year following an election blowout. A group of Liberals, including former cabinet ministers, are urging Schreiner to join the party and run for the leadership. Schreiner released a response yesterday saying he is going to take time to think about their arguments and appreciates the attempt to work across party lines. He says he has no ambition to lead any other party other than the Greens, but first wants to get thoughts from his Guelph constituents, family, friends and colleagues. The party's leadership race is set to begin in March. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, today is a big day in the province of British Columbia. It is no longer a criminal offense to possess a small amount of certain illicit drugs in British Columbia for people 18 or above. This is part of a 3-year pilot by the federal government, which granted BC an exemption from the Controlled Drug Substances Act, and that happened last May. Many advocates are saying drug users won't stop drug users. Thousands of people dying from a tainted drug supply. We know that this has been a huge issue in terms of opioids as well. And we know that this is, in some people's minds, the step in the right direction. What does that mean for the province of Ontario? Well, we know somebody that has a frontline seat to this type of thing every single day, and that is Peter Tilley, CEO of the Ottawa Mission. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning, Sam.
Is this good news for the people of British Columbia, Peter, in your mind?
Yes, I definitely think it is. It's long overdue. I know Dr. Turnbull, in his time, countless hours he's volunteered with Inner City Health here in Ottawa is something he's advocated for. And as we know, he is a brilliant man and somebody who's been serving frontline for 2 decades, serving the homeless in his volunteer capacity when he wasn't busy as chief of staff at the Ottawa Hospital. Just a brilliant man, and I've heard him speak on this subject many times. I've heard Dr. Davila from the province of Ontario Medical Officer of Health, from Toronto Public Health, speak on this as well too. We can't be driving people underground, people who suffer from addictions, from drug dependency, and usually due to trauma that they have suffered. We need to be addressing those issues as trauma. The Ottawa Mission has an abstinence-focused addictions program, as you know, but also one that supports harm reduction, because at the end of the day, we have to keep people alive. There's so many toxic drugs out there with the introduction of fentanyl years ago that we can't be driving people underground to purchase their drugs. We can't be driving people underground like treating them as criminals, go down the back alleys, go to the crack houses, go to these type of places to use your drugs so you're not going to get arrested. We wouldn't do it with alcohol and alcoholics. So I just think if the goal is to save lives, is to get people treatment and address the trauma that they're suffering from that's driving these addictions, the closure they need, the supports they need, criminalizing a drug supply is just doesn't make sense.
Peter, we know that this is a 3-year pilot that we're watching obviously very closely to see how this plays out. Do you think this puts pressure on Premier Doug Ford and the other premiers to start this for their own provinces, or do you think that they'll want to see how this pilot sort of plays out before having any further discussions on it?
I guess it's a two-edged sword. On that one, Sam, you're right that we do need to get the dialogue going in other provinces, certainly here in Ontario, get the medical public health officials listening at the provincial level at Queen's Park and at the local levels to have the discussion on what is the best option for dealing with this unsafe drug supply we're seeing that's killing people, and that people are dying from the use of unsafe drugs. So we need to get that dialogue going, and this will certainly get that dialogue going. The only other part of the equation that could be that, yes, it gives people that 3-year window. Well, let's see how the study turns out. So hopefully there'll be some early results 6 months, a year in, and a 3-year study or not, hopefully we'll start seeing some numbers come in that will weigh in on the future decisions of political officials.
You know, you mentioned alcohol, Peter, and I think when we think back, certainly even at my time at the Ottawa Mission was from, started in 2005, and, close to 20 years later, how that's changed. Because, yes, there was drugs and that type of thing, but I think a lot of it was really based in alcohol, people trying to find different ways to have alcohol through sort of everyday items such as mouthwash and that type of thing, which was really, really difficult to see people, try and try and get their high that way. But the change in the last 18 years, and I'm just using my window, but the change in the last 18 years has been significant. And I would say in the last 5 years, correct me if I'm wrong, the last 5 years have even been more challenging. Peter, it just seems to be escalating in terms of like you say, the safe supply of drugs.
Well, you're so right, Sam. It's it's a moving target, addiction, and again, the fact you've just highlighted something that supports what I said earlier. These people are numbing. They're numbing from their past. They're trying to escape often. Sometimes it just happens over time that they get used to cocaine or alcohol as a substance, but often these people are escaping and numbing. And it's trauma that's driven them there. So whether it's alcohol, we saw the opioid addiction that went on with OxyContin. And again, I was at, as a board member of Ottawa Public Health at the time, I was there when Dr. David Williams, the provincial medical officer of health, spoke and talked about, wow, there we've done it, almost like a mission accomplished type talk about the policies they'd implemented with doctors over prescribing, with the pharmacists over prescribing, over providing on OxyContin, and yet who knew that less than a year later an injection drug was going to come in to replace that opioid and all that came with it being fentanyl. So it's one or the other. It's and often a toxic supply, not often over the counter. And certainly, look at our frontline staff now, in all the shelters here, carrying around the Narcan kits on their belts. And regularly, part of your job now is to attend to somebody who's we found passed out on the washroom floor, well, actually not breathing, close to death on the washroom floor outside on the sidewalk because they've taken fentanyl, a drug laced with fentanyl, and having to bring them back to life, fighting to bring them back to life while we wait on the paramedics. It's just not a safe supply of drugs that's going on there. This effort in BC is to introduce a safe supply of drugs, and that's what Dr. Turnbull has always spoken about, is these people are addicts. They're going to find they're going to satisfy their addiction because they can't help it. The addiction is driving them. Can we not at least introduce a safe supply of drugs?
It's so easy, Peter, to drive by any shelter. Let's just say the Ottawa Mission, because that's where you're from, and to drive by there and on our way to maybe see a show at the NAC or to head to work or wherever we're going, and to judge. Right, really easy to do. We can do that from our warm car, driving by. But I think when you understand the stories behind and understand the compassion, and I remember before I started working at the Ottawa Mission, I remember, driving by and thinking, oh wow, is there no jobs? Is there no? And the education I got, obviously, in my time at the Ottawa Mission was quick, and it was life changing for me. But I remember one story in particular where this young man, looked very well put together, struggled with addiction, and he finally sort of wanted to share his story because he was trying to, sort of inspire people to give so other people could be helped. And he started off his story saying to me, Sam, my mom was raped at the age of 14, and I'm from that, like that. She got pregnant. I'm the result of that, and I have been told since day one that was how I came into the world. And I was not wanted, and I was not embraced by my family, and nobody came to school to see my concert. And nobody took me to soccer lessons. And of course, Peter, I'm a softie, the tears flowing off me. But it was a real realization that each and every one of us have such a different story. And somebody driving by in their car that maybe is taking their kids to soccer lessons has no concept, not one concept of what somebody's gone through that's standing outside those blue doors.
So eloquently said, Sam, and having been there, that very early on into my new position at the Ottawa Mission, coming up on a 10-year anniversary. A gentleman, we'll call him Chuck, used to come in and talk with me. A good-looking charmer, bright, quick on his feet. He was now 9 months into our addictions program, that he had been substance-free, and he was graduating, moving on into second stage housing. And we had had many conversations. I found him so engaging, a real comic. And he said to me as he was leaving, he said, "Peter, I don't know if you're ever aware of what brought me here, or why I've been here, why I had to stay a little longer through treatment." I said, "No." And he closed the door to my office and proceeded to tell me about how by the age of 10, his father had long since left the relationship. His uncle, his mother's brother, used to come over to visit, and unknown to the mother at first, was repeatedly raping him from the age of 10 on, to the point where he left and was on the streets by the age of 13. And there begins the journey. And it just, to this day, touches me that to think, oh, that's why Chuck is here, and what he had been through. And unfortunately, I ran into him on the street about a year ago. I guess COVID had done its stresses. He had relapsed. He didn't look well, but he's back with us, going through the program again, and we're trying to get him back on his feet and that. But there's so many stories, every one of them an individual story. And you're right, people drive by, oh, there's that drug addict. Go talk to the drug addict and talk about their childhood, or talk about what brought them here. You'd be surprised.
And that's the thing about those blue doors, Peter. We hope that they walk out for the last time, but they're always open when they need to come back.
Absolutely.
Peter Tilley, CEO of the Ottawa Mission, thanks for your time today.
Thank you, Sam.
Appreciate it very much. Well, the irony is we're coming back to talk about how to talk to kids about tough topics. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, my name is Sean Duhame. And this is the Sean Duhame Trio. I hope you enjoy it.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Yo. Yep. Okay, I'll be there.
Our ancestors came here from France to build a better life. We lived here happily for generations, until the British decided they wanted our land. The men were called to a meeting and then imprisoned. They demanded we swear an oath to their king and took everything, regardless. We were forced from Acadie, the only home we knew. Mon Acadie n'existera plus.
From 1755 to 1763, over 10,000 Acadians were ripped from their homeland. Despite this, Acadian culture endures in Atlantic Canada.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Un Chef, prendiamo un café. Let's grab a coffee and a sweet treat, a tiramisu. Salut!
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
And we're back on the Sam Laprade Show. I appreciate your time today. We wanted to speak with Dr. Devorah Heitner today, who is an author. Hello, Doctor.
Hello.
We wanted to talk today about such an important subject. Boy, this community, this country, the world's been through a lot in the last number of years, and there's just been so many tough topics, and it's really hard to talk to our kids sometimes. What advice would you have for us?
My advice is that we want to be asking our kids a lot of questions that are open-ended about their experiences online, in games, and social media, so that they can talk with us without feeling defensive or like they have to hide. So asking them questions like, have you ever seen someone post something that maybe doesn't make the best impression or doesn't align with who they are in real life on social is a great opener. Or if they want a new app, what have you seen folks doing with that app? What concerns you about that app? Just getting their judgment and their sense of how it's going is really helpful, so we can see where we might need to guide or mentor them.
Well, and I definitely the video that came out on Friday, the absolute tragic beating of Tyree Nichols in Memphis. That video, when it was released, every news agency had a link to it and was sharing it quite widely. And I contacted my daughter and said, you just while you're on social media, you might see this. I would suggest it not be something that you watch, or if you want to watch it, we watch it together. I think those kinds of conversations have to happen, but it's so hard for us to stay on top of it. It's 24/7.
Absolutely. And I think you did the right thing by respectfully saying to her, don't watch this, not trying to hide it from her. And also, we want to give kids reasons. Like, we need to know that these things happened, but we also don't need to watch them because it hurts us to our very core and our soul. And we can still be activists and, be demanding change and say this needs to stop without actually watching the video, which does perpetuate harm and even trauma to our brains. So it's important to see the difference. It's not that we're burying our heads in the sand and we don't want to know what's going on, whether it's violence against individuals, whether it's war crimes, right? But we don't need to watch them happen.
Absolutely. And when I think about, even the challenges of COVID, I mean, there's a lot of kids right now that are writing exams for the very first time, even though they're in grade 10 or 11. It's just they've just been through so much, and in many ways, that whole let kids be kids is really hard to do with everything that's happened in the last number of years.
Absolutely, but I also think we want to celebrate our kids' resilience and not give them the message that we think that they're kind of damaged goods. I mean, I think we can say, you've been through a lot, do you need to talk, and support them. But I think we also don't want to give them the message that we think they can't handle what's coming, because even the delays, like some of them might be behind academically or interpersonally, but they can catch up, right? They can get those independent skills, those study skills, those social skills. So I think we also want to communicate the message to them that we see them and that we're proud of them and that they can pick up those skills and that we can support them.
What a great point. Thank you for that. Where can you send us in terms of some resources on this topic?
I think in terms of social media in particular, my website at DevorahHeitner.com, Media Smarts Canada is a great resource if you just want to know kind of what is this app. CommonSenseMedia.org in the U.S. is also a good resource. So if you want to understand kind of the social media world and what kids are going through, those are some really good places to go. If you want to understand kind of social and emotional and like what's happening, I mean, there's a lot of great resources right now, but your own school and the school counselor at your child's school may be a good resource for just what's going on locally. And if your family does need support, if your child is struggling with sleep or, mental health or with social media or bullying, those school counselors are great resources to find out exactly what's available on the ground right where you live.
Great advice, Doctor. Thank you so much for spending time with us. Let's stay connected and share advice in the future too.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Devorah Heitner joining us today, an author talking about how to talk to kids about tough topics. Well, here's a tough topic. What if you wake up one morning and you look outside and your vehicle is gone? It was stolen right out of your driveway. What? Well, that happened to Nan Al. Hi, Nan. How are you?
Hi, Sam. Not too bad. And yourself?
Good, Nan. I think about our discussion a couple of months ago where your vehicle was stolen. You had to rent another vehicle. You know, it was a lot of challenges. You're surprised to see that, that it was taken right out of your laneway. But the challenges keep coming, Nan. Update us on the last couple of months.
So I recovered the car December 5th after it was stolen November 28th. It was at their dealership. So they were waiting it's like a machine for them to reprogram the car. The machine didn't come in until 2 months later. I exceeded my insurance coverage on my rental. And because it's a lease vehicle, I requested if I can have a loaner or something else in the meantime. They said no. I've been paying out of pocket literally for a rental. I had to cover the deductibles. After 2 months, I literally picked up the car back on Friday, and I drove it on Saturday. I almost got in a car accident. The car was shaking. It did a complete stop. It kept saying, key not recognized, key not recognized. And it wouldn't turn on. I was stuck in the cold for 4 hours. I had to tow it back to Bel Air Lexus. And I'm now in another rental. They're saying it's from the battery and that they'll replace the battery. With everything that I've been going through, I don't want the SUV. And I just want a solution because this shouldn't happen to anyone. It is a lease car, and I think as a consumer there should be some rights behind that. But yeah, I've been out of pocket, paying out of pocket, so I would like to find a solution for this.
Well, and Nan, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking there's a lot of people that wouldn't even be able to do that, that you have the resources to be able to do that, how hard that is, for you to do as well and to be stuck. I mean, you could have been hit when the car stopped like that. I mean, there's so many things that could have happened to you.
Yeah. And it's just the amount of stress. I'm not at peace, I wake up every morning paranoid. It's just, I can't do it anymore. And I just want a solution. And nobody's answering me. I've sent Bel Air Lexus enough messages. No solutions being made. I left voicemails to Lexus head office waiting for them to return my call. But tried many attempts, but still working on it.
And do you feel let down by them then, Nan, in terms of not only the fact that it got stolen and it was one of the higher vehicles to be stolen, but do you feel let down now post theft and post work that's been done on the car?
Oh, definitely, most definite. Even they should have, when I towed it back to them on Saturday, they should have offered me a rental or something. They didn't offer me nothing. They are not resolving anything. They want me to take the SUV back, and I really don't want it back because it's been one problem after the next.
I'm so sorry that this has happened, Nan. I know you were happy to see that it was recovered, but it just seems to be a bigger nightmare after it was recovered, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely, and it's you're more out of pocket. It's costing you more. So I would recommend not to recover a car because the victim is paying the price.
I'm so sorry, Nan. So let's stay in touch, okay? I want to hear if you do hear back from Lexus, let's have you on again and see if there's any resolution.
Okay, thank you, Sam. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Nan Al, joining us today, financial security advisor. But why we were talking to her today is because that Lexus got stolen out of her driveway and the nightmare continues. When we come back, we're going to spend some time with Fareed Khan, founder of Canadians United Against Hate. We've got a very important topic when we come back on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Salut tout le monde, je m'appelle Jessie Lindsay. Venez écouter mon spectacle Encore Ottawa 3 sur Rogers TV cette semaine. Hi everybody, come listen to my Encore Ottawa 3 show on Rogers TV this week. I hope you enjoy it.
Think it's okay to drive high? Think again. Drug-impaired driving is as illegal as drunk driving, and in Ontario, the penalties are the same. If police suspect you're driving under the influence of drugs of any kind, or a combination of drugs and alcohol, and you fail a roadside test, your license will be suspended immediately for up to 30 days. You'll pay a penalty of $198. And you can be charged with a criminal offense of impaired driving, the same as alcohol. Driving high is never okay.
Once upon a time, in a nursery rhyme, there were 3 bears. 1, 2, 3 bears. And they went a-walking in the cool woods a-talking while their porridge began.
Rogers TV invites you to let your imagination roam as we present Ottawa Storytellers. Each week we'll present a collection of original creative stories and inspirations for children of all ages. Join us for Ottawa Storytellers on Rogers TV.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It is Tuesday, January 31st. Good morning. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, minus 13 feels like minus 17. In Smiths Falls, it is minus 10. And here's what's making news this hour. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says the federal government is talking to provinces and territories about new standards for the quality, design and operations of long-term care homes in Canada. The Health Standards Organization has released updated standards that say residents should get at least 4 hours of direct care every day. The standards from the panel of experts at the non-profit Standards Organization also says those who work in those residences must be paid more. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says he recognizes that long-term care falls under provincial jurisdiction, but adds that all Canadians want to see seniors' care held to the highest standards possible. And StatsCan reports the economy grew by 0.1% in November as higher interest rates began to slow spending. It is estimating the economy stayed flat in December. The agency is suggesting the economy grew at an annualized rate of 1.6% in the fourth quarter, which would be down from 2.9% in the third. November's economic growth was driven by the public sector, transportation and warehousing, and finance and insurance. And former U.S. President Donald Trump is suing journalist Bob Woodward, claiming he did not have permission to release interview recordings of Trump to the public for his 2021 book, Rage. The federal lawsuit was filed yesterday against Woodward, his publisher Simon & Schuster, and its parent company Paramount Global. Trump's lawyer are seeking nearly $50 million in damages. Simon & Schuster and Woodward say all the interviews were on the record and that Trump agreed to being recorded. City News time is 11:32. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Today we're going to have a difficult conversation. It's one that I cannot even believe I'm having, and it's with Fareed Khan, founder of Canadians United Against Hate. Hello, Fareed.
Hi, good morning.
Fareed, I look forward to a day where you and I talk about a topic that isn't about hate. It just seems like every time we speak, it just increases the amount of displeasure I have with so many decisions that are made in this country, and this one absolutely. I do not understand. So I want to back up a little bit. We know that there was an appointment of Amira El-Gawabi, and she was appointed because we wanted to, in this country, hopefully work towards people getting along and understanding more about Islam, about Muslims. Walk me through about a little bit about this appointment and how you felt about it.
Okay, well, the appointment, the position, the special representative to combat Islamophobia, came about as a result of the Islamophobia Summit, which was held just weeks after the murder of the Afzal family by a white supremacist in London in June 2021. And this is one of two special representative positions. There's a special representative to combat anti-Semitism as well, which was appointed earlier. Anyway, this announcement was made in the summer of 2021 by the federal government that they were going to create this position, and the appointment was finally made only last week. And Amira El-Gawabi is a human rights activist and a Muslim community leader in Ottawa. I do know her, and I respect her, and I think that she was a very good choice to be appointed to this role.
Well, and Fareed, we reached out. We wanted to get to know Amira and have her on the show, and that interview was canceled, and we believe it was canceled because of some information coming from the province of Quebec. Walk me through this.
Well, yes. So Amira used to work for the National Council of Canadian Muslims, and she was very visible addressing issues of Islamophobia. And I don't recall if she was still working for them in 2019, but in 2019, she and the chair of the Canadian Anti-Hate Network, Bernie Farber, co-authored an op-ed about Quebec's Bill 21, its so-called secularism law. And in it, they basically criticized the law as being one that was based on prejudice, and they cited some polls which had been done, which indicated that a majority of white Francophone Quebecers were in support of this law, and that support was based on anti-Muslim prejudice. Now, I also wrote about this at the time, and I have commented on it numerous occasions since then, that in fact this is a Leger poll. Leger is a respected polling firm, and they have done multiple polls, and there was one done just before the bill became law in June 2019, which said that this law is based on anti-Muslim prejudice. Even though it was affecting all racialized religious minorities, the specific target was Muslims.
And so where do we stand today, Fareed, in terms of the appointment of Amira?
Well, the Quebec government reacted to her appointment, saying that her appointment was unacceptable. She should resign or be fired because of the statements that she had made publicly. And frankly, I will tell you that any one of the candidates who was being considered for that role, all were Muslim, would likely have the same position about the Quebec government's Bill 21 law, that it is a racist law, that the government is promoting prejudice against racialized religious minorities, but particularly against Muslims by putting in place such a law, that the law has nothing to do with protecting secularism in Quebec, because the very concept of secularism is that the government shall not promote a particular faith or have a faith that the state promotes. And that's not what the government is doing. What it's trying to do is it's trying to shut down individuals and penalize them for practicing their faith and demonstrating it publicly by making sure that they're not eligible for certain publicly appointed positions. Now, the thing is, anybody who practices a faith, let's say, for example, a Sikh who wears a turban, he doesn't go out during the day with the goal of saying, you know what, I'm going to go out and in my job I'm going to, promote Sikhism. That's not what, the vast majority of people who practice their faith and are openly visible in their faith are about. And they certainly don't do it in their roles in public positions.
Well, and a lot of it had to do with, and as you've mentioned, being openly visible in terms of dress. And this obviously, in terms of the Muslim culture, we know that, that's a big part. So a lot of people weren't even allowed to work in certain positions, as I understand it, for the province.
Yes. Quebec is following the path that France has taken, and in France, the laws that they have are extremely harsh. Not only are public officials not allowed, and in there they more directly target Muslims, but not only are they not allowed to visibly display their faith, but for example, students in schools, Muslim girls are not allowed to wear the hijab either in going to school. So, and this is the path that the Quebec government is following. And what they are doing, they said that what Amira said in her op-ed in 2019 was divisive, and is not the sort of person that we need. Well, no, actually, those who are being divisive are the Quebec government, are François Legault and the CAQ. They're the ones who introduced this law. They're the ones who are stigmatizing Muslims, and what they're doing with this law is emboldening those people out in Quebec society who hold very prejudiced and racist views against Muslims, as well as possibly, Jews and Sikhs. So, but it seems to be that the main target always seems to be Muslims, and I'd like to know why is that. It's not as if this was a big issue. This started, in the late 2000s with the so-called reasonable accommodation debates, and even the two authors of the inquiry that was held at that time into reasonable accommodation, even they said that Bill 21 is excessive and doesn't do anything to support secularism in Quebec.
Well, I mean, when I think about, you were saying, all the people that maybe would have even been in line for a role like what Amira received, all being Muslim, which is obviously what's appropriate, is there are many, many people who are not Muslim that also feel like this is discriminatory. Like, I think that there, in many ways, people, are sort of taking this issue and turning it into something that isn't. It's about hate.
It is about hate. You're absolutely correct. I've said this publicly before, and I'll say this again. I believe that François Legault is a racist, and he doesn't like Muslims, and he is catering to the prejudices and the racism of that segment of the white Quebec Francophone majority who don't like Muslims. And by doing this, what he is doing is promoting state-sponsored hate and bigotry with Bill 21. And it's not just, it's not just about Bill 21, because we've seen it also with Bill 96, the language law, which targets Anglophones. So, the only thing that he cares about are the interests of the white Francophone majority in Quebec and the segment of that population that seems to dislike anybody who's not white and who doesn't speak French. And if I had been in line for that position, and if I had been appointed, this would be on the record, because I've said this many times publicly, and so they'd be calling for my resignation too, or any Muslim who has spoken out or written publicly about the racism inherent in Bill 21. And let me make one thing clear. I'm not saying that Islamophobia doesn't exist in other parts of the country. It clearly does. We had the murder of the Afzal family in London. We've had attacks against Muslim women in Alberta and in BC. So, we have Islamophobia across the country, but it seems to be most egregious in Quebec because it is being promoted by the government of that province.
But here's the other issue. Let's layer on the fact Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has been way too quiet about this issue, Fareed. Way too quiet.
I will have to be sort of careful about how I respond to that. He was asked about it yesterday, and he said no, he supports her, and he said that she clarified the issue. However, I think that the government has been way too quiet since the very beginning when Bill 21 was put in place. It's a racist bill. It violates the Charter of Rights. The Charter of Rights is supposed to be the law of the land. They used the notwithstanding clause in the bill to try and inoculate it from legal challenges under the Charter. Of course, there are still groups that have taken Quebec to court over the bill, and I think now's the time for Justin Trudeau and the federal government to stop pussyfooting around the issue. I realize that this is all politics and it's about votes in Quebec, but human rights are human rights, and you can't be halfway about defending human rights. The government should have referred the bill directly, the federal government should have referred Bill 21 directly to the Supreme Court shortly after it was put in place, because that would have reduced the amount of time considerably in terms of getting a decision made on it, because this has been working its way through the courts since the summer of 2019 when the charter challenges were put in place. And in the meantime, lives are being affected, lives are being destroyed. There was one Sikh woman who was very visible during the lead up to 2019. She had studied to be a teacher, and she had just finished a teacher's college at the time, and she had to move out of the province in order to, be able to practice her profession. There was the case of a woman here in Chelsea, just north of Ottawa. It's a Muslim woman who wore a hijab, and she was taken out of the classroom due to Bill 21, even though the board didn't want to do that. There have been other incidents of people who have not been able to pursue their careers. People will not be able to move forward or advance in their careers under the bill. They're grandfathered in if they wear the hijab or a turban or a kippah. They're grandfathered in, but they won't be able to advance up. If they move up to a higher position, they basically have to fall in line with the law. So, this is a fundamental right under the Charter, practicing your faith. And if you're not out there proselytizing your faith, whether you're a police officer, a judge, or a public crown attorney or anything like that, if you're not proselytizing your faith, then I don't see what the problem is with wearing a turban or a kippah or a hijab in your profession. And the federal government needs to basically get its head out of the ground and basically start, to use an expression, kicking ass and taking names.
Well, you won't be so bold as to say it, but I'll say it. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, where are you on this issue? He may have commented yesterday, but in my mind, he's been way too quiet. He needs to come to the table and, to your point, not pussyfoot around anymore. Fareed Khan.
No, I agree with you. I think that he has been too quiet, not just on this incident, but going back to the beginning of Bill 21. So, yeah, I think he needs to step up and basically be the defender of Charter of Rights and human rights that he claims to be.
Fareed, thanks for your time today.
Thank you. Bye.
Fareed Khan, founder of Canadians United Against Hate. When we come back, we're heading to Centre Block. We're going to find out what happened in 1916. James Powell will be here, director of the Historical Society of Ottawa. Stay with us on Rogers TV and City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, my name is Sean Duhame. This is the Sean Duhame Trio. I hope you enjoyed.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
On Tuesday's Daytime Ottawa, February marks the return of the Canadian Cancer Society's Dry February initiative. We'll tell you why it is so important, of course, how you can participate. We'll also introduce you to a local winner of Diabetes Canada's End Diabetes Research Competition. And have you heard of the Missing Link Project? Well, if you haven't, tune in to Daytime Ottawa on Tuesday.
After a night out with your friends, not having a plan for a safe ride home can leave you in a bad spot. You could end up riding in a police car, an ambulance, or a hearse. These unplanned modes of transportation can be a costly choice and do not take you home. Your plan could include a designated driver, a taxi, or public transit. Drink responsibly, choose your ride, and have a plan for a safe ride home.
Visit arrivealive.org to find out more.
There we go.
Hey, going back in, okay?
It's a new season of The New Fly Fisher on Rogers TV.
Bum, 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 bum. 20 bucks. 20 bucks. We're on the line for 20 bucks.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Chef, prendiamo un caffè. Let's grab a coffee and a sweet treat, a tiramisu. Salut!
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, I love looking back on how this city has been shaped, and I love doing it with the Director of Historical Society of Ottawa, the one and only James Powell. How are you, James?
Very well, thank you, Sam. How about yourself?
Great. I'm so excited about today's topic because I know a little bit about this, but not a lot. And that, of course, is the 1916 Center Block Fire. Start us off.
Okay, that's right. It happened on the February of 3rd, 1916, and it's a mystery that's really unsolved even today. So let me set the stage. It's, of course, midwinter in Ottawa. It's freezing. The First World War is underway, but there's a lull in the fighting on the Western Front in France. But here in Ottawa, the work of government's grinding on, and there's a late night sitting, or a late afternoon, evening sitting at the House of Commons, and under discussion was something quite mundane, the price of fish, but the night was going to end up being anything but mundane. Just about 9 o'clock, debate is disrupted by a commotion at the far end of the House of Commons. In rushed the Commons doorkeeper, who shouted, "There's a big fire in the reading room. Everybody get out quickly." And smoke really almost immediately billowed into the chamber. And it was reported that the Prime Minister at the time, Sir Robert Borden, had to be helped from the Commons chamber by a 15-year-old page because there was just heavy smoke was billowing into the room. Ottawa firefighters were on the scene within about 3 minutes of the call being the fire being called in, because the chambers, the house was equipped with the latest fire alarm system, which was connected right to the fire station, so they were there to assist the Dominion Police, who were actually responsible for fire protection on the hill. But the building itself, that housed both the House of Commons and the Senate, was quickly engulfed in flames. It had been built about 50 years before. Its interior was largely highly flammable varnished wooden paneling, and the roof was supported by massive pine beams. There was no sprinkler system in it, though it did have fire extinguishers in the hallways. There was also no fire doors between the rooms of the main building. 78 firemen came to fight the blaze. Through the smoke and flames, the bell of the Victoria Tower, that was the name of the tower at the time, tolled the time until the stroke of midnight, when the bell crashed to the ground. It took until about 2 a.m. to put the fire under control, but by that time the center block was gutted. The only part was spared was the parliamentary library to the rear, and this was saved by the quick action of an assistant parliamentary librarian who had the presence of mind to close iron doors which separated the library from the main building. The head librarian back in the 1870s, when the library was finished, insisted on these doors being installed as a fire prevention device, and they were the only fire doors in the whole building. Sadly, 7 people died in the blaze. Two were guests of Madame Sévigné, the wife of Albert Sévigné, who was the Speaker of the House of Commons. She'd been hosting three friends in the Sévigné's third floor apartment, and when the alarm sounded, Madame Sévigné and her children and nursemaids promptly left the building, but two of her three friends went back to get their furs and got lost away in the smoke and died. Wow. A third lady actually jumped from the third-story window into a net held by firemen and survived. There were other fatalities. An MP for Yarmouth, Mr. Bowman Law, died, and as did a clerk. A policeman and two civil servants who were fighting the fire also died when the wall fell on them. There was also material damage of historic value. The mace of the House of Commons, which was acquired in 1845 and used by the old province of Canada legislature, was lost. Now, the big question was, of course, a Royal Commission came in to examine what went on and where it started, how it started, who was to blame. And it started in a reading room located between the Senate and House of Commons chambers. There were only two occupants in the room at the time, an MP, a man called Glass, and a wife of another MP. And they were in there reading the newspapers and magazines. Mr. Glass was the one who spotted the fire initially, and a policeman came in with a fire extinguisher to put it out. The fire started at the bottom of a wall. Now, you can imagine this wall, it was a reading room, and on the walls were wooden dowlings where newspapers hung down from them. And people would take these dowlings and spread the newspapers out across big wooden tables. So when the fire started low down, it just sort of immediately went up all this paper, this sort of hanging loosely down, with an incredible fire chimney, as it were, and the flames just raced up, and of course, hanging from these wooden beams and dowlings and paneling, it was all just went up very, very quickly. Wow. The Royal Commission focused on three possibilities: faulty wiring, careless smoking, and arson, and particularly, which was German sabotage. This was during the war. The electrical fire was seen as a low probability possibility because all the wires in the reading room ran through metal conduits. There had been reports of shady people hanging about the Parliament Hill just before the fire. One man was described as shifty, who had a gray mustache. The fire chief, Graham, his name is Fire Chief Graham, was convinced it was German sabotage. But the head of Dominion Police, a man called Colonel Sherwood, said no, he poo-pooed that idea. He said that all large fires at this time were being blamed on the Germans, and there was just no evidence of that. Now, there was a lot of bad blood between the fire chief and the head of the Dominion Police at the time. So it's not clear if they were just sort of turf fighting here. But when the people went through the debris, the ashes and remains of the center block, there was no evidence of fire accelerants. There are other people that testified that people had frequently disobeyed the no smoking signs in the reading room. In fact, there were some reports of cigar and cigarette burns on those wooden tables as people smoked and put their cigarette down on the table and leaving some black marks on the table as they read the newspaper. So at the end of the day, the Royal Commission left an open verdict saying that while there was no evidence suggested the fire was maliciously set, it could not rule it out.
Oh, interesting.
So to this day, there are people who believe it was German sabotage, though there is no evidence to support it. Indeed, there has been some, people have gone through the files, German files, and doing research on First World War spying activities by the Germans in North America, and there is no evidence to suggest that that spies were responsible.
Well, James, I've learned so much about that. Thank you so much for sharing with us about the center block fire of 1916. That was fascinating. Thank you.
My pleasure. Anytime.
Always a pleasure to spend time with James Powell. He's the director of the Historical Society of Ottawa. Every Tuesday around this time, we kind of take a look back and we talk about various things that have shaped this city. When we come back, it's lunchtime, everyone. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of hungry today. We want to feast on some of those big topics of the day. Alison Fair's coming to lunch. Cam Holstrom's coming to lunch. And, well, you're going to join us. So we're happy about that. Stay with us on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Salut tout le monde, je m'appelle Jessie Lindsay. Venez écouter mon spectacle Encore Ottawa 3 sur Rogers TV cette semaine. Hi everybody, come listen to my Encore Ottawa 3 show on Rogers TV this week. I hope you enjoy it.
Summer days, summer nights, lots of things to do, places to go, and people to see. If you're having a few drinks, be sure to plan ahead and get home safely. We don't want to pick you up. Drinking drivers risk injuries to themselves and others and take chances with their license, their jobs, and their future. Remember what's at stake and choose your ride, whether you're the driver, the passenger, or the party host. Thanks for supporting sober driving. I hope we never meet.
Visit arrivalive.org to find out more.
At Celebrate Ottawa, we love showing you something a little different. We showcase remarkable people highlighting the city's diversity in arts, culture, sports, and nature. We will show you features that prove Ottawa is a vibrant and exciting city. We'll entertain you and we'll even teach you new things. Join me, your host, Lila Grine, as we explore and celebrate Ottawa.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
City News.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 101.1 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It is Tuesday, January 31st. Good afternoon. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, mainly sunny, -13, feels like -17. In Smiths Falls, it is -10. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. Also, Transport Union is calling for a change to how buses operate during a snowy day. City News reporter Chris Curris has the details.
There are times when the snow gets a little thick that buses get stuck, and it seems to happen more often to the articulated buses, and Clint Crabtree agrees.
These articulated buses should be pulled off the road. I mean, when you have a certain amount of snow that is going to be falling on the ground, these buses do not belong on city streets.
The union boss calls them a hazard and then says members and the public then will get stuck. He also speaks to the performance of electric buses, of which the numbers are due to increase.
The members of mine that have driven the buses actually like them, so far so good.
Crabtree also says the violence on transit systems in Toronto has to stop, and he'd love to see special constables a bit more active on platforms to discourage that happening here. Chris Curry's City News.
With the weather forecast for Ottawa and the Valley, here is City News weather specialist Denise Andriachi.
Mainly sunny today, a guaranteed high of -9, but we do hang on to a very bitter wind chill for the day. Lots of layers needed. Overnight lows near -20. If you're letting the dogs out today or the kids to play, it's very quick and short because we are definitely on the colder side of things today. Wednesday, Thursday, chance of flurries. Temps not too bad, but Thursday night we dip down to near minus 22 for a low. Friday, highs only near minus 20 and down to minus 31 Friday night. So these will be dangerously cold conditions we're expecting, and Environment Canada will likely be issuing cold weather warnings. The guaranteed high today, 9.
City News Time 12:03. The Orleans Food Bank has received a huge donation from firefighters in our community.
This year we were happy to donate close to $15,000 in money and over close to $18,000 in food items for the Orleans Cumberland Resource Center.
Dennis Charbonneau is a volunteer firefighter working out of District 7. He tells the Sam Laprade Show the partnership with the district and the food bank has been nurtured over the last 20 years. Every year in December, the firefighters choose a day where they head out to local grocery stores to collect cash gifts and non-perishable foods, which they donate to the Orleans Cumberland Community Resource Center. I am Damilola Unime. For News Anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Connecting you and your community. This is the Sam Laprade Show on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Okay, it's lunchtime, everyone. This is an opportunity to invite various community leaders, business leaders, sometimes politicians. Everybody comes to the table for lunch with Sam, which we appreciate very much. Today, we've invited Allison Fair from Blue Sky Strategy Group, communications and media consultant. Hi, Allison.
Good afternoon, Sam.
Appreciate you joining us today. And we've also asked Cam Holstrom to pull up a seat at the table, and he is the principal at Nippewa Strategies. How are you, Cam?
Doing very, very good, and glad to be with you and with Allison.
Well, thank you so much. We're happy that you're here, and we know that there's been lots of talk over the last couple of years about decriminalizing drugs, and we know that British Columbia has just started, as of today, for the next 3 years, a pilot project decriminalizing those small amounts of drugs for those 18 plus. Is this good news for BC in your mind, Cam?
I think it is, and I come at this from the perspective of somebody who's had a little bit of up close and personal background with it, just because my mother, who's now retired.
Cam, I'm going to apologize for interrupting you. We have a really bad line, and I want to hear all the valuable stuff you have to say. I'm going to put you on hold, speak with my producer. Allison, we'll go to you first. What are your thoughts, Allison, on this move by British Columbia? Allison, are you there?
Oh. Are you there?
Yes, yeah, we have you there now. There we go.
Okay, all right. I actually think, decriminalization will help, but I'm not sure it'll prevent the deadly overdoses. You're seeing it increase each year, and I think in including this pilot project, they need to be looking at and focusing on treatment and recovery, which I didn't see that there. So I would love to see the federal government, the BC government be able to do that. And, Cam was just about to say personal anecdote there. Same here. My father was very close to the streets there in terms of he was a police officer there in Vancouver, and I remember visiting him and people shooting up right beside me as we're walking by onward to lunch, and that's stuff that everyone who visits Vancouver has kind of gotten used to. So I hope this will help the process. I'm not sure it will solve it. It's not the people that are based on what I've read, the people who are going into are incarcerated are fewer than 4%. The people who are, that are incarcerated, it's because of theft and other offenses due to the fact that they need to find the way to get the drugs, to pay the suppliers, so they can get that fix. And again, that fix isn't always the best one, and we end up, with overdoses. So again, I think there needs to be more to this. It's just the beginning. It's a good first step, but a lot more needs to be done.
Very well said. Allison, we have Cam Holstrom back with us. Cam, I know you were about to share some thoughts on this topic.
Yeah, and thank you for the patience. I was going to say, I have a bit of a personal connection because my mother, who's now retired, but she spent her professional career working in the addiction space back home up in Northwestern Ontario, and we had all these conversations about drug policy and how it is you deal with what's the best ways. And you know what? When you have a when you criminalize drug possession like this, it does keep people from actually seeking help who want to seek help. And I think that's one part of this discussion I think that gets brought into this too often is that it's treated as a moral issue, not a public health issue. It's definitely not a criminal issue. And when you're dealing with people with addiction, they have to be willing to take that step to help themselves. And you need to lower those barriers. So to me, if you're able to decriminalizing the drug supply is one way of allowing people that foot in the door to actually seek out help when they're ready to do so, and to try to ensure that people are not ending up in the criminal justice system where, frankly, they don't belong. They're not criminals. If you're an addict, you're an addict. That's a health problem. That's not a criminal problem. It's not a moral failing. And there are people of all backgrounds who fall into addiction. Mm-hmm. And it is not a class thing, even though some people like to point out to it as those people, quote unquote, who have this problem. And you know what? I think that, to me, that's this kind of step can help change that mindset and actually help more people get the help that they need and end up with a better result. Because you know what? No one is done any better for it, not our society, not our finances, nothing, if we're putting more and more people into a criminal justice system that's already overloaded and not getting any better outcomes for it.
Mm-hmm. Very, very well said. And Allison, it really goes hand in hand when we think about, the police services budget, because we know so much of the work that Ottawa Police, do on a daily basis is dealing with mental health, dealing with addiction services, and all of the, the challenges they come across on an everyday basis. And to Cam's point, I mean, it isn't just happening on Rideau Street. It's happening on, Hazel Dean. It's happening on St. Joseph Boulevard. I mean, this is all over this city. It's every walk of life. So what are your thoughts in terms of the police services budget? I mean, council and the mayor are asking for our input right now on those budgets. So is it time to do things a little differently, Allison?
Well, I think, a lot of people who elected Mayor Sutcliffe want him to do things differently, want this council to do differently. And I think we need to go line by line through everything that is coming into the budget to make sure that the money is there and it's being spent wisely. I know that, what is being proposed isn't necessarily going to be approved. I know the board had approved only, 11 million of the $14 million increase in 2022. So it's not guaranteed money that they're, going to get. But again, based on what I've seen, is that it's also not new spending. So what they're trying to do here, and again, we're dealing with times where inflation is at its highest levels as we've seen in a while. I think what we need to do is make sure that that the police budget, what we're looking at is that the money wisely. I mean, I live out in the South End, just past Barrhaven, and there has been a piece of property sitting there for probably 5-6 years that has been designated as a new police station. It's still sitting there. Nothing has been done. I'm sure some of that money has been earmarked for that. And I think these are the things that the police are looking for. They want to be able to make sure that they're meeting the needs of this and the demands of this growing city. And we have to make sure that our police are being, have the opportunity to do that. As I said in the previous answer, I do have a little bias in the fact that my father was a police officer. So I do know the demands that are put on our officers day in and day out. And we need there to be supporting them, but we also need to make sure that taxpayer money is spent wisely and effectively.
And we know that the those two different stations, one located on Greenbank Road and one located on Leitrim, would be closed, and that new Barrhaven location, the bill now is sitting at about $170 million right beside Carlton Lodge there, right by the Vimy Bridge on Prince of Wales. So we are looking forward to seeing where that steps in. What are your thoughts, Cam, in terms of the budget? Time to do things differently?
I think there's always a time to do things better. And I think that's maybe especially after what we've come out of the last year. Like, I know there's some people, and some of my political friends, who cringe at the idea of spending any more money on police, especially after what happened over the last year. And I get that, and I respect that. To me, there are parts that do need to be invested in, because there are people behind these services that need to be supported. But at the same time, there are other issues that this department needs to deal with, and you can't separate that from the budget discussion. You know what? If I lived in Centertown, I would not feel so good about the idea of increasing the police budget after the police department abandoned me last year for 3 weeks at a time and left me, just left me up to a criminal mob. So I wouldn't exactly feel so gung-ho about that idea at that point. The fact is that the Ottawa Police Service has some serious rebuilding of trust that it needs to do, to show that not only that they're going to be there for people, they're going to do better, because frankly they had issues before, but also that they merit such an increase in funding. And I believe that there are definite needs for the police when it comes to more funding. But at the same time, you can't separate the two. And I think that makes a very difficult political conversation to have, because I'm sorry, like I just have a hard time saying like it's all, normally when people get more funding, it's kind of a signal of either something's really wrong or really good. And I've never heard the police say that it's really wrong. So to me, then you're basically trying to say I'm okay with how this has been for the last year. Like I don't know about that, but yeah, like I think this department has some serious issues it needs to tackle across the board. Some of that will come with extra funding. Some of it needs to come with changing in policy, changing in approach. And yeah, and that might mean reprofiling funding from maybe one area to another to improve that service. So that all has to be part of the conversation.
Changing culture too, I think, Cam, is probably welcomed as well. Cam Holstrom joining us today, principal of Nippewa Strategies and Allison Fair, Blue Sky Strategy Group communications and media consultant. We're going to take a short break on our lunch today. We're going to come back and talk about lots of other subjects, including Mike Schreiner. What's Mike Schreiner going to do? Well, we're going to find out what Allison and Cam think when we come back on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, my name is Sean Duhame. And this is the Sean Duhame Trio. I hope you enjoy it.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo, Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
It's about sharing and caring. It's about doing and belonging. It's about living life to its fullest. And it's about laughing out loud. We are L'Arche Canada, and we're about witnessing and sharing the gifts of all people. Learn more about us today.
We fought our way through Italy and then headed for Amsterdam, sweeping for Germans along the way. Our worst fear was to catch a bullet in these last hours of the war.
I was 15 when the Nazis invaded the Netherlands. More than 100,000 Dutch Jews never came home. Our men were put into forced labor. By 1945, we were starving. The food drops gave us hope. And then the Canadians came.
Before Amsterdam, I couldn't have explained why we were there, all those years away from home. But the Dutch showed us why it mattered.
Papa wanted me to bring some soldiers home to thank them personally. And that's when I first saw Wilf. And I invited him over that afternoon.
Marguerite Blaise married Lieutenant Wilf Gildersleeve. They moved to Vancouver, where they raised 8 children. Today, the Dutch still remember the Canadians who liberated them.
Bum, 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 bum.
20 bucks. 20 bucks. We're on the line for 20 bucks.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Un Chef, prendiamo un café. Let's grab a coffee and a sweet treat, a tiramisu. Salut!
Continues on City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, I don't know what you're having for lunch today, but we're having a little politics, a little talk about police. We wanted to spend some time today with Cam Holstrom, principal at Nippewa Strategies, and Allison Fair, Blue Sky Strategy Group, communications and media consultant. Let me ask you, Cam, do you know anyone that has had their vehicle stolen? Do you know of anybody in your network?
In my network, no, but I keep seeing more and more of it in the papers, more and more of it happening. And when you see what's involved in it now, like actually, it's very interesting. I was down in Florida over the holidays visiting my parents, and there were a couple news stories on it. And you just see just with the new technology in vehicles, how eerily easy it is for for this to happen. It's scary because even now you don't physically need a key to be able to steal a car. Like that's a crazy thought when you think about it. And it's something that, frankly, we need to get our heads around because, you know what, you're seeing more and more of these vehicles being up and being shipped out of the country. Like I saw pictures over the holidays of vehicles that were stolen vehicles from Canada that were sent to Ghana. And you knew they were Canadian vehicles because they still had the Canadian license plates on them. Ontario, Quebec, Manitoba plates with a Ghanaian plate slapped on top of them. So it's like they're not even hiding it. They're so brazen about the fact that you actually say, hey, that's my car, that's my license plate, running around the streets in Ghana.
It's wild, absolutely. And they're stealing them in under a minute, Allison. It's really hard to believe. Do you think police are doing enough about the vehicle thefts in this region?
There are so many things that the police have to do in this city. I mean, we talked about with the budget. I think, they're doing the best they can. You cannot be everywhere at all times. And as you said, they're stealing them in under a minute. If a cop just happens to be in your neighborhood, then you're lucky. But we can't have a police officer on every street in every neighborhood. That just doesn't make sense. I think the methods that owners are using in terms of, putting an air tag from that can track your car is a great idea, especially if you have a vehicle that is like on that list of vehicles that are popular to be stolen. But I think at the rate these thieves are doing, I mean, we've got to come up with better solutions for protecting our vehicles. And then when trying to get that vehicle back, if they manage to track it down and find it before it's shipped off to out of Montreal, how do we get the car back to the owner? And apparently, based on accounts, there are difficulties even with that through insurance and that. So I think police are very limited in what they can do. I think we as owners need to step it up in terms of protecting our vehicles. Don't leave articles in your car that are going to get stolen, and provide an opportunity for a theft. If you have a garage and can park it in there, park it in there. Use your garage. It's there for a reason. Maybe start thinking about a home edit in terms of your garage and getting rid of the stuff in there to prevent your theft. And at the same time, being cognizant, I know, growing up, and I'm sure, Cam and I we're all, the three of us are roughly the same age. Growing up, we had neighborhood watch. Mm-hmm. Let's bring those back.
Right.
If you're, I know in my neighborhood, we all keep an eye out on each other, and I think we need more of that coming from all our neighbors instead of us just staying indoors and minding our own business.
Absolutely. It's so interesting. We had somebody on about 2 months ago who had their Lexus stolen, and it has just been a nightmare ever since. It was recovered about a week later, but in some ways she wishes it wasn't recovered because she had to spend over the deductible another $3,000 to rent a vehicle for all this time. Gets the vehicle back less than 24 hours later. She's driving it, stops in the middle of nowhere, leaves her stranded for 4 hours because the key isn't recognized. So, those are just the other challenges. It's one thing to get it stolen and then to have the nightmare continue. Let's talk a little bit about Ontario politics. We know the leader of the Green Party. There's a lot of love for Mike Schreiner, Cam. People really like Mike, and the Liberals are really liking Mike. They're trying to get him to cross the floor and be their new leader. What are your thoughts?
Well, first off, I'm just blown away by this. I wrote a long piece in my Substack about it this morning because I'm just blown away by this story for a couple of reasons. First off, Mike's a nice guy. I like him, but most Ontarians don't know who the heck he is. So he was liked by comparison by the others who were in the field, which weren't necessarily liked, which isn't exactly an endorsement. When it comes to the Liberals that are pushing for this, that there are always members of a party who will send out open letters and push for things that just make no sense. Very rarely are they such power brokers as they are in this case. And I would just point out that in doing so, those people, including a sitting MPP from Ottawa, said that people who have more background, more experience, have actually been in cabinet, have served in senior positions in their government, in their own party, are not good enough. So that's one hat. You just kind of shot yourself in the foot there with that. And then by saying to Mr. Schreiner, come run for us, you're not guaranteeing he's going to win anything, as in he's not going to guarantee to win the race. And really, what Mr. Schreiner, when this was first brought to him way back when in the fall, said no. By saying yes, he's now put himself in question. Is he loyal to his party? What does he stand for? What's the future of the Green Party? Is he throwing the Green Party under the bus? To me, the biggest problem here is that the Liberal Party of Ontario, similar to what happened with the Liberal Party in Canada about 10 years ago, they have a messiah syndrome. They always need a savior. It's never about actually doing the work and building a party up and figuring out where you went wrong, why people don't like you, and actually dealing with it. It's like, no, you know what? Our ship is sitting at the bottom of the ocean. If we put the right captain on it, it's going to rise right to the top just because it's a Liberal ship.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And you know what? When you look at other Liberal parties, provincial parties across the country, there isn't one with more than 2 seats west of Manitoba. And actually the only one is in Manitoba. It's something like 2 seats. In Quebec, they don't know who they are anymore because there isn't a national unity fight to fight. And there's only one provincial government in the whole country that's a Liberal one. There are actually more Liberal parties in Ontario that are either unofficial or third party or lower than there are in government or official party or official opposition status in this country. They need to think about why that is. And guess what? Going and picking the guy from the fourth party whose greatest accomplishment in politics is getting himself elected twice in 5 attempts and nobody else probably isn't going to be it.
Really interesting perspective. And I was thinking too, Allison, what would he do with all his green ties? He'd have to get some red ties. Allison, what are your thoughts quickly?
You know what? I agree with, it's not just the Liberal Party. I feel like every party, when they get kind of in that, they go through this leadership, but they're trying to find that shiny bauble. And trying to get someone from the Greens to go to the Liberals, he is well liked, yes. But again, does anybody know who he is? And he's even said he has no ambition to lead any other party other than the Ontario Green Party. So I think it's time for those veteran leaders who want him to cross the floor to look within their ranks, find someone, and they've got some fabulous candidates. grow from within your party and don't look elsewhere. Let the Greens, deal with their leader. Stop trying to poach them from others because, it doesn't work. If we've seen it before, it does not work, and it's time that the Liberals just look within themselves.
I appreciate your thoughts as well, Alison. Well, ironically, today is National Backwards Day. Maybe that's what the whole Green Party and Liberal parties are thinking today. Backwards Day, so that kind of means dessert for breakfast, that kind of thing. Alison, are you doing anything for National Backwards Day?
You know what? No. Sadly, my day is so jam-packed here at work that I have no time to even think about going backwards. Maybe I will walk the dog later tonight backwards for a little bit.
There you go.
But I really, no, at this point, it's like full steam ahead. No backwards thoughts today.
There you go. How about you, Cam? Anything backwards for you today?
Oh, geez, I didn't even know it was backwards day. So clearly I'm not on top of the ball of things. So maybe I need to I need a calendar for this. My daughter got me a joke calendar for Christmas. Maybe next Christmas I need like a national day calendar to remind me of all these things so I can make sure that I'm doing it backwards on January 31st next year.
There you go. We'll get caught up then. Appreciate your time today. Cam Holstrom joining us today. Alison Fair, what a great lunch we had today. Lots of great topics. When we come back, it's the business lunch. We're not going backwards in business. We're going full steam ahead. Stay with us here on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, I'm Jim Deeks, host of Canada Files. I hope you'll join me each week for interesting and informative discussions with some of Canada's most impressive people.
Salut tout le monde, je m'appelle Jessie Lindsay. Venez écouter mon spectacle Encore Ottawa 3 sur Rogers TV cette semaine. Hi everybody, come listen to my Encore Ottawa 3 show on Rogers TV this week. I hope you enjoy it.
It's closing time, and you stayed out longer than you planned. So now you can't drive, and the buses have stopped running. You could always call your girlfriend. Or maybe your roommate? What about your best friend? You could just dial 1-888-TAXI-GUY or use the Taxi Guy app. The call and the app are free, and they both connect you to a local cab company to bring you home safely. Visit arrivealive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive, drive sober.
Hi, I'm Meg from AIM Fitness, and I'm here with my buddy Fit Finley. Join us every week for Fit Over 50. We'll take you through some low-impact and high-intensity workouts designed to improve your strength and your balance. All you'll need is a resistance band, some light hand weights, and also your water bottle and a sturdy chair. Tune in right here on Rogers TV and let us be part of your weekly routine.
Join me for Season 3 of Paula Roy's Favorite Foods. Whew, that was a lot. I think I need a nap.
Number 1 for local news, traffic, and weather for Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News 101.1 everywhere.
It is Tuesday, January 31st. Good afternoon. I am Damilola Unime. Right now in Ottawa, -11, feels like -16. In Smiths Falls, it is -9. And here's what's making news this hour. Ontario's long-term care minister, Paul Calandra, says the province has already legislated a goal of an average of 4 hours of direct care per resident per day by 2025. He says he will take a look at new national standards released today that recommend that level of care, but told reporters he has no interest in watering down what the province is already doing. Calandra says after he reviews the Health Standards Organization's guidelines, he suspects Ontario will still have the highest standards in the country. The Congress of Aboriginal Peoples says the police beating or death of Tyree Nichols in Memphis is a reminder of systemic police brutality in both the U.S. and Canada. It is urging Canadian police forces to make fundamental changes to end brutality against members of racialized groups and for police officers to learn how to de-escalate tense situations. National Chief Elmer St. Pierre says racism and discrimination are the roots of police brutality against racialized people. City News time is 12:32. I am Damilola Unime. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, it is the business lunch. We talk about all things business today, and I'm very excited to talk about Le Cordon Bleu here in Ottawa. We're joined now by Chef Yannick Anton. How are you, Chef?
Very good, and yourself?
Fantastic. Some people don't even know, Chef, that Le Cordon Bleu is in Ottawa. Tell us about the location.
So we've been at that location on Laurier Street East for about 20 years now. It's an old heritage building, so the particularities actually bring a bit to the family style education versus these big campuses where you lose a bit of sometimes identity. So we can provide here actually a more personal teaching to our students.
Sounds lovely. Tell us about all the offerings you have for different opportunities for students.
So here at the Cordon Bleu Ottawa, we offer like a wide range of culinary arts like pastry. We have a pastry diploma. We have a culinary management diploma. We have a boulangerie program also, which is fantastic. We have the cuisine regular program, and we are working actually right now also on a future program on a plant-based, as it's going forward in the world towards this trend. So we try always to be on top of the trend and giving the education related to what's going on in the world.
Chef, tell me a little bit about your journey to this time in your life, and how did your love of food begin?
Oh, that's a long time ago actually. I started to actually wanted to be a chef. I was around 11 years old. Probably because of my grandfather, and I have also the son of a friend of my parents who was working in Washington D.C. As a chef, and I think that's what started to give in my mind the love of cooking. And even at that time, when we study in France, in young ages, we start to do little things like practical things in classes. And I always enjoy doing like simple things like chocolate truffle, or there was some very basic technique. And around 14, 15 years old, that's where we have to decide, do we start to learn a career or we continue school? And for me, it's never been actually an issue. I always wanted to be a chef. And so I continue that path, and I'm still actually really loving it. And it's a passion for me.
It sounds like it, and what a journey that you've had. I love that it started in childhood for you. Can I tell you a little secret, Chef?
Yep.
I'm not a very good cook.
It's okay. The principle is actually to have fun. And by the way, we still have short courses here to actually where you can learn a few techniques for everyone in town.
Okay, well, maybe I should enroll in one of those, because I understand that you have won a very big award. Le Cordon Bleu, of course, Ottawa is winning North America's Best Culinary Training Institution in 2022. That is a big nod to the work that you're doing, Chef.
Yeah, we are actually very, very proud about it, and especially because we got awarded, so like you say, for 2022, and the ceremony was held actually in Dubai. And what's actually the most important is the jury who actually award this culinary award is people from the industry, so chefs. We have also media and also consumers. So for us, it's very important because we are recognized actually by your peers, but also by the student, by everyone who actually we reach towards the year.
Mm-hmm. So I have two very important questions for you. One, what's your favorite dish to prepare?
That's a good question. I have many dishes to prepare, but I have to say one of my favorites actually to do when I'm at home sometimes is a paella. So it's actually a dish from Spanish dish, which is based on saffron rice and chicken, squid, and shrimp mussel. So a lot of seafood. I'm personally from the south of France, so I like everything with a lot of seafood and fish. So that's what I cook a lot also for myself.
And and if somebody was making something for you, chef, what do you want to be made for you?
You know, I know people sometimes are scared to cook for a chef. We terrorize people. But we are actually probably the more simple people to feed. Because for us, that's what we do all day long. And when we go to eat or somebody prepares something to eat, it's not about a judgment. It's about the company. It's about having a good time. So it doesn't matter actually the dish is really the love the person putting in the dish. It's like us. We work all day long in this industry, but the most important thing we have to remember is the love we put on the plate, because that will reflect to the person who's going to eat it.
Oh, I love that. Well, now you can come over then. You can come over. I'll cook for you then. I'm not shy anymore.
Definitely. I will be happy.
That's awesome. So let me ask you, how many students would you have go to Le Cordon Bleu in a year?
So in a year, we have about, I will say 400, okay, roughly. For sure, we've been a bit lower during the COVID area, but now it starts to come back, and we're actually very happy about that. Students start to come back, and we actually have students from across Canada, but also the particularity of the Cordon Bleu is we are an international school. So just to let you know, Cordon Bleu, it's about school in 20 countries, okay, 30 schools. We train about 20,000 students per year, okay, from 100 nationalities. So that's really the big picture of it. But here in Ottawa, same thing. We have a few Canadian actually students, but also we start to have back a lot of international students.
Well, that's fantastic. And congratulations, Chef, on that incredible award-winning North America's Best Culinary Training Institute for 2022. Congratulations, and thanks for sharing your love of food and your love of being a chef with us today.
Oh, thank you very much, and I'm waiting for your invitation. Huh?
Okay, I'll send it. It's coming. Thanks so much, Chef. Chef Yannick Anton joining us today from Le Cordon Bleu in Ottawa. What a charming gentleman he was. I appreciate his time today. We have a big anniversary coming up, 10th anniversary of Invest Ottawa. Michael Tremblay is going to tell us how we're celebrating. Stay with us here on the Business Lunch on City News.
Sam Laprade will be right back on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Hello, my name is Sean Duhame. And this is the Sean Duhame Trio. I hope you enjoyed.
Play 4 games of bingo from the comfort of your own home each Monday at 7 p.m. for your chance to win money from our $2,000 regular bingo or $5,000 super bingo night. Kiwanis TV Bingo Mondays at 7 p.m. on Rogers TV.
On Tuesday's Daytime Ottawa, February marks the return of the Canadian Cancer Society's Dry February initiative. We'll tell you why it is so important, of course, how you can participate. We'll also introduce you to a local winner of Diabetes Canada's End Diabetes Research Competition. And have you heard of the Missing Link Project? Well, if you haven't, tune in to Daytime Ottawa on Tuesday.
After a night out with your friends, there's always options for getting home safely. You could call your BFF, your mom or dad, whoever you can count on for a safe ride home. You could call your favorite cab company or 1-888 taxi guy, or you could use the Arrive Alive smartphone app to help you choose your ride. Be it a friend, transit, or taxi, getting home safely is app easy. Now available for iOS and Android devices. Visit arrivealive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive, drive sober.
Hey folks, it's me, Giovanni Patini, the host of the RTV quiz show, the hottest show on television. It's the hilarious quiz show where you, the viewers, play for valuable non-existent prizes. It's got great trivia, fun facts, and a lot of laughs, all blended together in a perfect cocktail of edutainment. So join us Wednesdays at 7:30 right here on Rogers TV. Nice.
Bum, 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 bum. $20. $20. We're on the line for $20.
On the next episode of Simply Cooking by Un Chef, prendiamo un café. Let's grab a coffee and a sweet treat, a tiramisu. Salut!
The Sam Laprade Show continues on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Well, it's the business lunch. We're talking all things business. We're talking the business of books right now. Have you ever thought about going to the moon? Well, maybe you can't go to the moon, but maybe your book can. And Mike Bluin's living that life right now. Hi, Mike. How are you?
Hi, Sam. How are you doing?
Good. Your story is fascinating to me. So first of all, tell us about the book you wrote called Skin House.
Well, there are actually two books going to the moon, but the one that's going next month is Skin House, and it's I'd describe it as a comedy crime caper with some dark overtones. And it won Best Book in Canada the year that it was published, and I think that probably helped it get a ticket to the moon.
It absolutely did. And tell us where do you reside, Mike?
I'm living in Kentville right now. I'm actually standing in a house that burned down just before I got the news that I was going to the moon.
Wow, how tragic is that? What? Everybody was safe though, Mike?
Everybody was safe. We got out, the dogs got out, but everything was lost. And the reason I mentioned it was several days after that I was living at my son's house, since I'd lost everything that I've ever owned. And, I wasn't in the happiest and most chipper of moods. And on top of that, I checked my cell phone and found out that I had missed by, I think, 12 hours the deadline to be involved in this project. And
So
I was just kicking myself.
So how did it come to be then?
This one came to be a good friend of mine, Carolyn R. Parsons, who's a writer from Newfoundland, contacted me later that day and said, "Mike, I got in. Would you like to hitch a ride?" And so I'm technically a stowaway on that mission. And then subsequent to that, after my new book came out and is doing quite well, the director of the program called me and asked me if I'd like that one to be involved in a NASA SpaceX mission in 2024. So
okay, so I have to ask.
Go twice.
I love that very much. I have to ask why are books going to the moon? Who's reading them up there, Mike?
Well, anybody with a library card, Sam, they can just drop on by and pick one up if they're on an intergalactic journey and they get bored. I guess the idea is to have a permanent library on the moon representing humankind's culture. I don't know if you remember the Voyager expedition, but it sent recordings. And I think Miles Davis was, and I'm not comparing myself for even a brief second to Miles Davis, but, the idea is to have human culture go beyond our fragile planet.
Wow, that's amazing. And when you think about everything you've been through, obviously the tragedy of a fire, losing everything, and then having this good news, how do you sort of kind of think about it in your mind that you've had tragedy, but yet something good happened?
Well, when I think about it, I'm still, to be honest, trying to wrap my mind around it. I wake up in the middle of the night thinking, wow, wait a minute, I'm going to the moon. It's been a lifelong dream of mine. I wanted to be an astronaut like a lot of young people do probably, when I first saw the first moon landing on a scratchy black and white television, and my dream was to actually do that. And I couldn't believe that people could actually do that. I think spaceflight represents some of the most amazing accomplishments that we have. And so I always wanted to be an astronaut. I think I'm a little bit beyond the age cutoff now, but my writing is so important to me that really, in a sense, the most important personal thing that I have is going to represent me there. And that's awesome. I'll be able to point up to the moon with my new grandson and at some point and say, look at that, Papa's up there.
Oh, wow, you're going to make me cry. That's so beautiful. And it really is. I think we all live a life. I'm hoping all of us live a life where we do want a legacy to live on, whether it's, a grandchild or whether it's 100 or 200 years from now, that something of us lives on. So you'll live on forever.
I think that's such an important part of writing, particularly for me, of writing novels, is that, it's about communicating with people what's in your soul right now, but also, hopefully, if you're lucky, to have some of that stay behind after you've gone off somewhere else.
It's been said, Mike, that there's a book in all of us. Do you believe that?
I think there probably is, but I think it's a small percentage of people that actually put it onto paper and get it into bookstores. It seems like an easy thing to do, because really what I do professionally is I sit at a desk with a piece of paper and a pen or a computer, and that doesn't, if you compare it to digging ditches, it's a very easy job, but it's not that easy an industry to break into. Traditional publishing is very, very competitive, particularly in this country. And even getting the words in the right order and coming up with a product that people want to relate to and read, it can be a challenge. So I always encourage young people who want to get into this not to give up, because it's a tough road to walk, but it's worth it.
Do you ever go back and pick something up that maybe you that you wrote maybe 20 years ago?
I never do, but I can't anymore because everything that I had burnt. So I don't, that aspect I don't mind at all, because that's not really something that I do. Even if I had it, I wouldn't be going back to look at it.
It's so interesting.
Forward. I've got 4 new books on the go.
Wow, 4 new books. How do you manage all of that, Mike?
Well, it's a full-time job, and I have a very, very tolerant wife, and when my kids were at home, they were very tolerant as well. When Dad's in the office, and you do have to steal a lot of time away from other things to do this, but hey, you get to go to the moon.
You get to go to the moon. Well, congratulations, Mike. We're so excited for you, and we look forward to the taking off. I understand it's February 22nd from Cape Canaveral.
Scheduled for that. Now, these launches, they don't always go according to plan, but I'm planning a window big enough that I can get down to Cape Canaveral and hopefully be there when it actually lifts off. I'll let you know how it goes.
Oh, please do. Keep in touch. Thanks so much. Mike Blouin joining us today. He's an author, and, his book is Heading to the Moon. We love that so much. We wanted to spend some time as well with Michael Tremblay. He's the CEO of Invest Ottawa. He's the president and CEO there. How are you, Michael?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me today.
Are you heading to the moon at all, Michael?
No, not today.
Not today. You have too much to do here at Ottawa. The 10-year anniversary of Invest Ottawa and all the work that's been done over that decade. I find it hard to believe it's been a decade, but yet I think, you've been around forever, right? I don't know if you feel that juxtaposed thoughts of the anniversary.
You know, it's funny when I reflect back a little bit. It feels like just yesterday when I joined the organization, we had just moved into Bayview Yards, and then I reflect back on everything that has been accomplished, and I'm just grateful that we've been able to deliver so much with all of our partners in the community. It's been amazing.
And let me ask you, Michael, for those that aren't sort of very familiar with Invest Ottawa at that beautiful location you just talked about, I think that's the coolest location in town, by the way.
It is full too. We have over 250 people here right now.
Wow, that's amazing. I love hearing that. I love hearing that. But for people that aren't familiar, what's your main objective?
So our goal as a company is to unlock the economic potential of the city and to make sure that everyone that has an ambition to move forward, that they have a place in that view. So we do a ton of programming to attract investment into the region, and we do a ton of programming to help build entrepreneurs and businesses and support their advancement. That's what we do.
And what are you most proud of when you think back to all the people that have walked through the doors, Michael?
I think I'm most proud of my team and the people that work with us, all of our partners and supporters. It's because this team is just so strong and agile at delivering. I'll use a quick example, if I may. We're a year after the convoy. And it was good to see that this weekend it was a quieter event. We were commissioned to actually take care of businesses that were affected in the red zone, and we actually delivered over $16 million to 1,400 businesses in 5 months. That happens because of the people of Invest Ottawa and the partners that we work with, like Ecobia and Obot. Not possible otherwise. It's just hard work, and I'm just so proud of the team that we have that are willing to do whatever it takes for our city.
And, you really play such an important role as well. We know how challenging it is for so many places to attract talent. But you're really at the forefront of that in many ways as well, inspiring people, a lot of those startups, the incubator program, all of that. How important do you think that Invest Ottawa has been for all of the other businesses that actually thrive in this city?
So we're very active in a wide variety of ways. We do help, and we're very active through the pandemic with our Digital Main Street program to help support businesses that are considered more traditional businesses. But we always do that with partners. So I think the power of Invest Ottawa, we're a small company, and the goal is not to be this big company. Our goal is to have impact, and we do that by working with partners right across the region. So I think people perhaps think our reach is far, and perhaps it is because we work with so many partners that care about the future of the city. And I really think that is a powerful statement. So today's anniversary is really a celebration of all of us. It really speaks to that, I think.
So if, Michael, you and I were chatting in 2033, what will you have accomplished in the next decade?
Oh, that's a great question. I think what you'll see is we'll be far deeper when it comes to our depth of mobility programming. So if you're familiar with AreaX.0, in fact, I'm looking at some of our assets right now here at Bayview. We've got them on display. We should be in a much deeper place to provide next generation mobility solutions. I think you'll see more in life sciences. Our city has got a ton of research that comes in here, and commercializing it has been the challenge, but we've seen a ton of progress in the last 4 years, and I think we'll see a lot more. And I think defense is another area that we have our eye on, that we want to play the long game in. Final thing I would say is this. We really believe in diversity, equity, and inclusion. Our programming has been geared to be available and open, and we'll see more and more progress on that over the next 10 years for the simple reason that if we want to unlock the full potential, we need to see everybody in that vision.
Michael, are you taking a little time to actually celebrate and step away from the hard work?
No, I'm actually no. I'm not wired that way.
Oh, that's funny. That's so funny. I expected you to say, "Yes, Sam, we're going to be." Nope, we're not. We're keeping it going.
We're celebrating, but we got work to do.
I love that so much, and I think that's why you're a great leader, Michael. Keeping the eye on the big prize. Congratulations to everybody. As you know, I've had the pleasure of working with so many of your team over the last decade, and it's always been an honor. I always walk away from Bayview Yards, especially when I could actually go there before the pandemic. I always walk away inspired and so proud that you're all here. So thank you for that.
Very kind. I feel blessed to be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael Tremblay, joining us today from Invest Ottawa. He's the president, he's the CEO, but as you can tell, that's servant leadership. He always talks about his team. He always talks about his partners. That's the kind of guy he is. We appreciate him sharing about the 10th anniversary. It has been a very busy show for you today. I appreciate all the hard work by our producers, Noah and Aaron, today getting this show together. Tomorrow, if you can believe it, February the 1st. We have lots in store for the month of February, and I hope you stay with us all afternoon. Our news team is working very hard to bring you all of the news stories of the day, so lock it in to City News.
You've been listening to the Sam Laprade Show.
Tune in again for local news and community views on City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Call the Rogers TV view